Chapter 1037. Xiao Jian, there are still 3 days before the wedding. My heart can't stop pounding. I wonder if the days ahead will be comfortable after marrying your Uncle Gu. Qin Yiru held Yun Jian's hand as her heart raced. Normal women generally had a slight premarital phobia, but some people didn't show it so obviously. Before the wedding, most people would have some concerns and more or less felt a sense of fear from the bottom of their hearts. In serious cases, they would even start to dread getting married. Qin Yiru had experienced a failed marriage, so it was normal for her to have such thoughts now. Mom, Uncle Gu is sincere to you. You don't have to worry about anything now. What you should do the most is to have a good sleep. I'll take care of everything else. Yun Jian patted Qin Yiru's palm comfortingly and pressed her lips into a faint smile. I've sent out all the invitations. Mom, rest well now and wait for the 21st of May to put on your beautiful wedding gown. Yun Jian had settled everything. Hearing Yun Jian's words, Qin Yiru's uneasiness calmed down instantly. Yiru, Officer Gu is a good man. Trust my judgment. Dong Wan, who had heard Qin Yiru and Yun Jian's conversation, walked in from the door. Dong Wan was a high-ranking official and was busy with work. Due to Qin Yiru's impending wedding, she had put aside everything she was busy with and applied for a week's leave, planning to accompany Qin Yiru through the wedding. When Qin Yiru had dropped out of high school, she could not do anything for Qin Yiru. Now that Qin Yiru had finally found her happiness, as a friend, she should stay by her side. It was not too late to make up for what she did not have the chance to do in the past. This time, she wanted her best friend, who had accompanied her since she was a teenager to her middle age, to get married in a grand manner. However, why was her Yiru getting married again? She was not marrying a bastard like Yun Gang either. She could not bear to part with her. Dong Wan swallowed the jealousy in her heart and walked over to hug Qin Yiru. Yiru, if you dare to be unhappy, I promise I'll break Gu Yunjian's legs. After decades, Dong Wan finally expressed her thoughts. Although her words were a little extreme, Qin Yiru knew that Dong Wan would not really break Gu Yunjian's legs. She was just trying to make herself happy in another way. Even if the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked, there would always be such a person behind you, silently protecting you. She is not your relative, nor is she your biological parent, but she cares for you from the bottom of her heart. They had been good sisters for decades and had been friends for a lifetime. This was a friendship that could be brought to the grave. Looking at Dong Wan and Qin Yiru, Yun Jian smiled as well. It was then that Yun Jian's phone rang. A call at this time was simply ruining the atmosphere. Yun Jian hung up the call and walked out of the house. On her way out, she closed the door behind her. Then, she took out her phone again and dialed the number. When she called back, Yun Jian was already walking down the stairs in her flats. When she was halfway down the stairs, the call was picked up. Sister Jian, it's Diani. We're in Longmen City. Where are you? The voice of Diani, the leader of the Kosha mercenaries intelligence team, came from the other end of the phone. Chapter 1038. Yun Jian had sent out quite a number of invitations in the name of Kosha mercenaries. With Gu Sha mercenaries' identity, how could these people not come when they had sent out invitations to influential figures in the world? Kosha mercenaries. Kosha mercenaries were an existence that could stand shoulder to shoulder with an Hun group. Sending out invitations in the name of Kosha mercenaries to influential figures in the world was not a question of whether they would come. Even if they were not invited, the influential figures in the world would rush to Longmen City at the speed of a rocket when they heard about it. If someone were to ask around, they would know that the large hotels and 5-star hotels in Longmen City were fully booked. Generally, those who were qualified to stay in a 5-star hotel were usually the rich and wealthy. The average citizen did not have the financial ability or the need to choose to stay in expensive 5-star hotels. Therefore, 5-star hotels would usually have leftover rooms. These days, however, these 5-star hotels were not only fully booked but there were also many foreigners. Yun Jian was well aware of this. There were already people who rushed to Longmen City in case she was late for the invitations she sent out. It was the first time Dai Annie and the others had come to Longmen City, so when Yunjian received the call, she went back to her room to change into a clean white shirt and slim-fit pants before she went out. CE was coming back from an Hun group the next day. CE planned to take a long break after she was done with her work in the organization. Yunjian had Dai Annie and the others go to Longmen City's East Bus Terminal while she took the bus there. Dai Annie and the others had rushed over from the headquarters of Wuxia Mercenaries by bus as well. When Yunjian saw Dai Annie and the others, they were still standing at Longmen City's East Bus Terminal. There were only 3 of them on this trip. The one who stood at the front was a woman in her 20s with long black hair. She was beautiful and delicate. She was Dai Annie. Diani was a ZY mixed blood. She had a head of beautiful black hair and a pair of gray eyes. She was very delicate and beautiful. The moment they saw Yunjian, Dai Annie and the other 2 girls ran over. Standing at the front, Dai Annie was the first to give Yunjian a big hug. Sister Jian. Wuxia Mercenaries was divided into many departments and 3 of them were the most important. These 3 departments were the intelligence team, the assassination team, and the investigation team. Dai Annie was the head of the intelligence team. As for the woman and man beside Dai Annie, they were the assassination team's leader, Gue Yan, and the investigation team leader, Gue Lian. The leader of the assassination team, Gue Yan, was a woman, while the leader of the investigation team, Gue Lian, was a man. Dai Annie, Gue Yan, and Gue Lian were the leaders of Wuxia Mercenaries' intelligence team, assassination team, and investigation team respectively. They were one of the important high-ranking members in the hierarchy of Wuxia Mercenaries. Back in Wuxia Mercenaries, Gue Yan and Gue Lian had met Yunjian as well, so both of them greeted Yunjian as Sister Jian. Right, Sister Jian, Elder Snake. Lizard and the others will only arrive in Longmen City in 2 days, Dai Annie told Yunjian as she recalled Snake. Lizard's instruction. Yunjian pressed her lips together before curling her lips into a smile and said after a beat, I know. Yunju's sister. At this moment, a surprised voice was heard. Yunjian raised a brow when she heard the voice. Just as she turned around, she saw Miss Lu who had just alighted from a city bus and was greeting her. Miss Lu was Xiao Yunju's homeroom teacher in school and the one who had slandered Xiao Yunju back then. Chapter 1039. Yunjian's stunning performance at Xiao Yunju's school had been witnessed by Miss Lu, as well as Xiao Yunju's classmates and parents. During the sports meet at Xiao Yunju's school, Yunjian had killed an assassin on the spot and the news had spread like wildfire. However, that was not the main point. The most shocking thing was Yunjian's identity. She was an advanced special forces soldier in the military. She was Team Monarch/God. An ordinary person, especially an underage girl, had actually killed someone. Miss Lu should have stayed away from her when she found out. Miss Lu should have been scared to death when she saw Yunjian, or she might even request the school to expel Xiao Yunju. Because his sister was a murderer. However, that was not the case. With the identity of an advanced special forces soldier and Team Monarch/God, not only was Miss Lu not afraid of Yunjian, she even thought that Yunjian was the embodiment of justice. Therefore, Miss Lu walked over with a smile on her face. Sister Yunju, I didn't expect to see you here. Why? Are you here to take the bus from East Station too? Miss Lu walked over with a smile. Her face was full of smiles as she walked over. She could not hide the flattery written all over her face. Whether it was the first time she saw Yunjian or Xiao Yunju at the sports meet, Miss Lu had always treated Xiao Yunju and Yunjian with disdain. The reason was simple. Miss Lu had always thought that Xiao Yunju came from a poor family. Therefore, Miss Lu had no patience for Xiao Yunju. However, it was different this time. After knowing that Yunjian was an advanced special forces soldier, especially knowing that Yunjian was Team Monarch/God, Miss Lu's attitude towards Yunjian and Xiao Yunju changed instantly. Yunjian was already an advanced special forces soldier at such a young age. From this, it could be deduced that Yunjian's future was definitely not something an ordinary person could compare with. Therefore, when Teacher Lu saw Yunjian, she called out to her in order to get close to her. Yunjian did not have a good impression of Xiao Yunju's homeroom teacher, Teacher Lu. She only glanced at Teacher Lu from the corner of her eyes and replied coldly, "Yes, I'm here to pick up my friend." She didn't want to say anything else. "So you're here to pick up friends?" Teacher Lu glanced at Dai Annie, Gue Yan, and Gue Lian before nodding in satisfaction. Seeing that Yunjian was about to leave, Teacher Lu immediately came up to her and stopped her. "By the way, Sister Yunju has been doing well in school recently. If she keeps it up, it won't be a problem for her to be a good student this semester." Teacher Lu knew that parents all hoped that their children would be able to get the 3 Good Student Award. Hence, in order to get closer to Yunjian, she used all her trump cards. Her words were filled with the intention of getting close to her. Teacher Lu was the classic, "I don't care if you're down and out, but if you're rich, let's be good friends" kind of person. However, what Teacher Lu did not know was that Yunjian did not like flattery, nor did she like these fake things. It's all talk and no substance. "I don't want my brother to get a fake piece of paper." "Thank you." Yunjian glanced at Teacher Lu. With that, she turned to call Dai Annie and the rest to leave. Yunjian's words stunned Teacher Lu. Chapter 1040. Although Yunjian was Xiao Yunju's sister, she could also be considered as half of Xiao Yunju's parent. The school had a database that registered the students' families. Back then, Teacher Lu saw that Xiao Yunju was adopted by Yunjian's family, so she looked down on Xiao Yunju. Looking at Yunjian, she was also dressed plainly. She didn't look like a rich person at all. Teacher Lu saw this, so she didn't pay much attention to Yunjian and Xiao Yunju in the beginning. She even thought of Yunjian and Xiao Yunju in her heart. "If you don't have money, why are you pretending? What's there to be proud of?" But when she found out about Yunjian's identity, Teacher Lu's attitude completely changed. In order to curry favor with Yunjian, Teacher Lu even wanted to give Xiao Yunju a certificate for the 3 Best Student Awards at the end of the semester in exchange. Unfortunately, Yunjian didn't fall for this trick at all. And Yunjian's words just now were also accusing her of being a hypocrite. Teacher Lu had met parents who rejected her good intentions before, but she had never met someone like Yunjian. She actually said that she was hypocritical in a roundabout way when she rejected her. But when she saw that Yunjian was about to leave with Dai Ani and the other 2, Teacher Lu panicked and hurriedly shouted, "Sister Yunju, I heard from Yunju that he's going to take leave next Monday, right?" Teacher Lu's shout attracted Yunjian's attention back. Yunjian narrowed her eyes and turned around. Then, she looked at Teacher Lu in the eye for the first time and said, "Yes." Seeing that Yunjian's attention was finally back, Teacher Lu put in more effort to say, "A student needs a parent's signature to apply for leave, but since we've met today, this can be waived." Today was Friday. In the morning, Xiao Yunju went to Teacher Lu to ask for a day off. As Qin Yiru's wedding was next Monday, Xiao Yunju had to ask for a day off. It was almost noon. Teacher Lu didn't have any classes in the morning, so she left the school and took the city bus to the nearby market to buy some groceries. She planned to go back to school after she was done. He cooked lunch in the teacher's dormitory. However, he didn't expect to bump into Yunjian. Teacher Lu thought, "This is fate." It was another line of flattery. Yunjian chuckled coldly. "Thank you, teacher." Yunjian's face was calm. Her calm expression touched Teacher Lu's heart. "If there's nothing important, I'll leave first. I'm in a hurry." Yunjian randomly spouted some nonsense and then turned around. Dai Annie and the other 2 naturally followed behind Yunjian like 3 bodyguards. Teacher Lu was surprised when she saw this scene. However, when she saw that Yunjian was really about to leave, she hurriedly called out to her. "Sister Yunjian, is your mother getting married next Monday?" When a student asked for leave from a teacher, they had to give a reason. Otherwise, the teacher wouldn't agree. The teacher would even use a superior tone to curse the student for doing anything to play truant. Therefore, Xiao Yunju had developed a habit of asking for leave from Teacher Lu. After asking for leave, he would immediately give the reason so that the teacher wouldn't mistakenly think that he was asking for leave to play truant. Yes. Yun Jian didn't turn around this time. She turned sideways and looked at Teacher Lu from the corner of her eyes. Oh, I see. Coincidentally, I don't have classes next week. Sister Yunju, do you mind if I attend the wedding together? Teacher Lu asked shamelessly. Chapter 1041. To be honest, since Ms. Lu dared to say this, it meant that she was confident that Yun Jian would agree. After all, Yun Jian's younger brother, Xiao Yunju, was studying in her class. If Yun Jian did not agree, it would not do. Disagree? Sure, if Yun Jian dared to disagree, she would catch Xiao Yunju red-handed. Most of the teachers nowadays were like this. Of course, it did not exclude the truly good ones. There were not many left who could meet a truly good teacher who was neither biased nor snobbish. If you could meet one, please cherish it. Teacher Lu's confident face made Diane, Gue Yen, and Gue Lien jump in shock. It was not that Ms. Lu's actions shocked Diane and the other two. Instead, from the moment Ms. Lu greeted Yun Jian until now, Diane and the other two could clearly sense Yun Jian's disgust toward Ms. Lu. That was one of the reasons. Of course, the most important reason was that Ms. Lu had clearly made Yun Jian very unhappy. Yet, she was still standing here unscathed. Based on Yun Jian's personality, should she not have killed Ms. Lu by now? Suddenly, she felt 3 intense gazes sizing her up. Ms. Lu turned her head slightly and saw Diane and the other two sizing her up without any reservations. Ms. Lu was suspicious. She even reached out and touched her face. Then, she felt around for a while before asking Diane, "What's wrong? Is there something on my face?" Since Diane and the other two were following behind Yun Jian, Ms. Lu guessed that Diane and the other two must be on good terms with Yun Jian. To rope in a person, one had to rope in that person's friends first. That was the most important step. Ms. Lu had wanted to build a good relationship with Diane and the other two, but who knew that when she turned to look at Diane and the other two and opened her mouth to say something like that, Diane crossed her arms and turned her head sideways toward Ms. Lu. It looked like she had no intention of paying attention to Ms. Lu at all. Seeing that, Ms. Lu swallowed hard. What if Diane was the one to answer? How should she answer? She couldn't possibly tell Teacher Lu that she wasn't looking at him because there was something on his face, but because it was a miracle that he hadn't been beheaded by Yun Jian after talking so much nonsense. After all, Diane was considered half Chinese. She was sure that if she said that, Teacher Lu would definitely treat her as a lunatic. Cough, cough. Ha. Miss Lu had already mastered the art of being shameless. Seeing that Diane and the others were ignoring her, she coughed a few times in an attempt to cover up the awkward atmosphere. After covering up the awkward atmosphere just now, Teacher Lu grabbed Yun Jian and asked again, "Sister Yunju, it shouldn't be a problem to have one more mouth, right?" "Huh. Huh." Teacher Lu said this to Yun Jian in a joking tone. After she finished speaking, she even smiled symbolically. With this smile, the passers-by around the station glanced at her suspiciously. Initially, Teacher Lu wanted to talk to Yun Jian in a joking manner, but she smiled. She thought that Yun Jian would also laugh with her. This was an effective way of talking between adults. However, she did not expect that Yun Jian had no intention of laughing with her because she was a teacher at all. Diane and the other two looked at the scene before them coldly. In the end, Yun Jian's slow voice was heard softly. "Oh." Since someone wanted to come up and be slapped in the face, of course, she would not refuse. Chapter 1042. Seeing that Yun Jian had agreed to let her attend the wedding, Miss Lu assumed that Yun Jian had agreed to befriend her. Looking at the silver watch on her wrist, Miss Lu knew that she had classes in the afternoon since the hands were pointing to noon. Even if she wanted to get close to Yun Jian, she dared not be late for class when it was time to return to school. It was a job that would affect her livelihood. "Ha, Sister Yunju, you're such a good sister." Miss Lu chuckled, snapping out of her daze from looking down at her watch. "Well, I have classes in the afternoon, so I have to go back and prepare for lunch. I'll be rushing to class in the afternoon. See you next Monday, Sister Yunju." Miss Lu was rather excited as she turned to leave. She had only taken 2 steps when she turned back to look at Yunjian. "My son goes to kindergarten and ends school early. My husband doesn't have to go to work next Monday as well. They won't be able to make dinner if I'm not home. If there's space, can I bring my son and husband along?" She was obviously begging for her son and husband to attend Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding together. When Miss Lu heard that Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian were getting married this morning, she had asked Xiao Yunju where the wedding would be held. Xiao Yunju was actually an obedient child, so he gave her an address. Qingyun Hotel. Qingyun Hotel was a 4-star hotel recommended by Yun Yi. When Yun Jian came to Longmen City from Xinjiang town for the first time, it was Su Haokol who insisted on treating her and brought Yun Jian and Yun Yi to Qingyun Hotel. Yun Yi had recommended Qingyun Hotel because the food there was excellent. Compared to other 4-star and 5-star hotels, it was much more affordable. Good quality at a reasonable price was the concept of shopping nowadays. Yun Jian's family could afford a 5-star hotel, of course, but Yun Yi had recommended Qingyun Hotel because the food there was delicious and to her taste buds. When Miss Lu heard from Xiao Yunju that Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding would be held in a hotel, Qingyun Hotel, she was tempted. Qingyun Hotel was one of the few 4-star hotels in Longmen City. Although there were 5-star hotels in Longmen City, Qingyun Hotel standard was relatively high. Qingyun Hotel's items might not be expensive among the 4-star and 5-star hotels, but it was still a hefty sum from a commoner's perspective. Why would they go to a hotel when they were getting married? Especially in this day and age, who wouldn't get married in their own home and invite their neighbors to cook a table of dishes and pass the wedding just like that? For those with better family conditions, they would hire a professional chef to cook a feast. Who would have the money to go to a hotel? It was a 4-star hotel. Take Miss Lu for example. She had never stepped into a 4-star hotel in her entire life with her meager salary as a teacher. Therefore, when she found out that Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian were getting married at Qingyun Hotel, Miss Lu did not forget to let her husband and son join in the festivities by having a meal at a 4-star hotel. She was a teacher too. There was no way she would give Qin Yiru a red packet. This meal was a free meal. When Diane, who was standing at the side, heard this, she had the urge to kill Teacher Lu. Chapter 1043. Looking at Yun Jian's smile, Miss Lu really thought that Yun Jian was welcoming of her bringing her family to the wedding. Attending a wedding was a joyous occasion after all. Moreover, Miss Lu thought that she could tell that Yun Jian had decided to accept her. Was she planning to befriend her? Miss Lu was even happier when she thought about it. She exchanged a bunch of pleasantries with Yun Jian before bidding farewell to Yun Jian. When Miss Lu left, Yun Jian did not see her asking for the location of Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding. How was she going to attend the wedding if she did not know where it was? As smart as she was, how could Yun Jian not have guessed that Miss Lu would say something like that when they met today? It was probably because Miss Lu had gotten some information out of Xiao Yunju when he applied for leave from school. Yun Jian's impression of Miss Lu deepened when she said something like that to her student. "Sister Jian, who is she? Why didn't you kill her?" Gue Yen went up to Yun Jian to ask once Miss Lu left. When he said the word kill, Gue Yan's expression was as calm as the wind and clouds, as if he had just said something insignificant. A young man who was dressed fashionably walked past them and was surprised to hear Gue Yan, a tall and pretty woman who could be considered a modern goddess, speak to Yun Jian without blushing or skipping a beat. "Why didn't you kill her?" The fashionably dressed young man took another look at Yun Jian and Gue Yan before scurrying away in fright. Were these people idiots? Gue Yan was a woman with a very hot temper, a very vicious woman. It was not surprising since she was the leader of the Kosha mercenaries assassination team. There were 3 major teams in the Kosha mercenaries, namely the intelligence team, the assassination team, and the investigation team. Gue Yen was a woman, but she was in charge of all the members of the assassination team. Actually, among these three groups, only Ghost Flame's assassination group was the most difficult to manage. This was because the assassination group was in charge of all the secret agents and assassins of the Wuxia mercenaries. Because of this, Gue Yan's identity determined her character. Furthermore, her strength was the strongest among the three of them. Because I found something even more fun than killing people. Yun Jian stood sideways, the side of her face facing Gue Yan. Her slightly curved lips made the hearts of the three people present skip a beat. Oh. What could be more fun than killing people? Tell me, Sister Jian, let me try it too. Dai Annie's interest was piqued when she heard what Yun Jian said, so she asked quickly. Yun Jian turned her gaze back to Dai Annie. She paused for a moment before curling her lips and saying, guess. After saying that, she took the lead and walked forward. Diani and Ghost Flame, who were still standing on the spot, were confused. For people like Diana and Gue Yan, who had always been at the top of the world, only by killing those who made them unhappy could they feel satisfied. Yun Jian used to think so too. Therefore, whether it was the old Yun Jian or the current Dai Annie and Gue Yan, they all thought that the best way to deal with someone they hated was to kill them in one blow. After her rebirth, however, Yun Jian realized that the real fun was not killing someone for a moment of satisfaction, but, you two don't get it, do you? If someone pisses you off and you kill them, you'll feel satisfied for a moment, but how can you take the pain when they're dead? Ha ha ha. Chapter 1044. Watching Gue Yan catch up to her, the guy was graceful, like a gentleman. Gue Yan stood where she was, thinking about what Gue Yan had said just now before she mocked him. You're such an idiot. What are you talking about? Isn't that just showing off? You're being so secretive and you're even giving me a jingle. Gue Yan first complained to Gue Yan. Just as he finished speaking, Gue Yan's mouth twitched as he suddenly thought of something. Is Sister Jian someone who needs to brag? Was the boss of the international Wuxia mercenaries someone who needed to brag? No way. With Sister Jian's status, she was someone people would be begging to meet internationally. Why would she need to do something as vulgar as bragging? Before Gue Yan could dwell on it, Dai Annie hit the nail on the head. Huh, this is different. If you're just bragging, our Sister Jian doesn't need it. Sister Jian was showing off in front of an unreasonable person, but this was a different story. Bragging to unreasonable people means that the better you're doing, the angrier they'll be, right? So, what can we do by killing them? If we're happy, how can we not be happy when they're dead? We should learn from Sister Jian and piss them off. Dai Annie said jokingly. In fact, Dai Annie and the girls would still kill those who deserved to be killed. After all, there were some people who would cause endless trouble if they were not killed. What they were saying now was a joke. As Dai Annie and Gue Yan conversed, both of them caught up to Yun Jian. Yun Jian arranged accommodations for Dai Annie and the other two girls as well. It was Qin Yiru and Gu Yunjian's wedding 3 days later. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, it was the day before the wedding. It was the night of the 20th of May 1999. CE had returned from an Hun group a day earlier. On the eve of the wedding, Yun Jian had sent out invitations in the name of the Wuxia mercenaries. Those who were invited had already arrived in Longmen City. Recently, all the 4-star and 5-star hotels in Longmen City were fully booked. Gu Xian's biological mother, Hua Yun, was holding her husband, Hu Chaochuan's hand as they led their son, Hu Qixiang, to a 4-star hotel in Longmen City. I'm sorry, our hotel is full. The receptionist smiled again and politely refused. What's going on? This is already the 3rd-star rated hotel. Why are they all full? Huayun held Hu Chaochuan's hand and questioned the receptionist like a rich lady. Huayun and Hu Chaochuan did not live in Longmen City. Hu Chaochuan had chosen to open an amusement park in Longmen City purely because it was more suitable for development. Of course, part of the reason was that he wanted to show off in front of Huayun's ex-husband, Gu Junjian. Look, I casually invested in an amusement park, but what about you? You may be rich, but can you be richer than me? However, it was a pity that this project ended before it even started. CE had already purchased the amusement park. It was now CE's, but Hua Yun and Hu Chaochuan were unaware of it. I'm sorry, sir and madam. I don't know why there have been a lot of guests these days, so. The receptionist smiled awkwardly. There's not even a room? I say, what's your hotel for? You actually. Hua Yun wanted to press further. Hu Chaochuan stopped Hua Yun's hand. My baby, don't be mad. There's no star-rated hotel. Let's just stay in a normal hotel for a night. Hua Yun's face darkened when she heard that they were going to a low-class place like a normal hotel. In spite of it, Hu Chaochuan quickly made Hua Yun smile again. Chapter 1045. When the receptionist heard Hu Chaochuan's words, she was very surprised. However, the receptionist could only look at the two customers in front of her and smile. In the end, the receptionist watched Hua Yun and Hu Chaochuan leave while holding Hu Qixiang's hand. It was only when the three of them left that she heaved a sigh of relief. She then picked up the phone at the front desk and dialed the hotel's general manager. General manager, all the rooms in our hotel tonight, including the deluxe suites, have been sold out. I heard from a woman who wanted to check in, but it's already full. She's already at the 3-star rated hotel. The receptionist reported what she had just learned to the general manager. On the other end of the phone, the general manager's voice continued, many important people have come to Longmen City recently. Take it easy and don't offend anyone. Yes, the receptionist answered when she heard that many important people had come to Longmen City. She then probed the general manager carefully and curiously. Then, General Manager, do you know why there are so many important people in a small place like Longmen City? The receptionist was purely curious. Curiosity killed the cat. There was a saying that made sense. How would I know about the important people's business? Do you think I'm a god? Just do your job. The general manager roared at the receptionist in annoyance. The roar frightened the receptionist so much that she put down the phone at once and told the general manager hastily, I understand. Thank you, general manager. Just as she finished, she saw a young girl walking in from the hotel's entrance not long after Hua Yun and Hu Chaochuan left. The girl had a high ponytail, but it was not tied to the top of her head. Instead, it was tied at a suitable position, making her look spirited. The girl's flawless face was slowly approaching her. Even the receptionist, who was a woman, could not help being dumbstruck. Hello, how may I help you? The receptionist greeted Yun Jian politely. I'm looking for someone, Yun Jian said with a smile. Yun Jian was already at the front desk when she finished speaking and rubbed her fingertips on the table. After a moment of silence, she finally asked, Where's room 3106? With the guidance of the receptionist, Yun Jian quickly arrived at the east side of the 3rd floor of the hotel. She was the 6th room from here. When Yun Jian knocked on the door of room 3106, the door opened and she immediately went in. The door was then closed and locked. Yun Jian looked at the snake lizard in front of her and smiled. Sister Jian, everything's ready for tomorrow, snake. Lizard told Yun Jian calmly, looking at her. What he got in return was a light nod from Yun Jian. By the way, tell Raccoon to work harder tomorrow morning and wake up early to do my mom's makeup. As Yun Jian spoke, she walked to the big bed in Snake Lizard's room and sat down lazily. All right. Snake. Lizard nodded. Raccoon and Fox were twin sisters. Raccoon was the one who came to deliver the Ferrari sports car to Yun Jian in the beginning. Every high-ranking member of the Kosha mercenaries had their own abilities, and each of them had the ability to take the world by storm. Raccoon was best at disguise. Transfiguration could also be referred to as makeup, but the difference was that it was based on makeup, turning a person into another person. Raccoon's disguise was already at the pinnacle of perfection, which meant that her makeup skills were even more unfathomable. Chapter 1046. These were all planned by Yun Jian herself, but since Snake Lizard came over, she only needed to inform Snake Lizard, and Snake Lizard would take care of it. This way, Yun Jian could free up a lot of time to deal with other matters. After Snake Lizard listened to Yun Jian, she paused before saying, "Sister Jian, Tiger Leopard and the rest will be here tomorrow." The wedding was tomorrow, but the official ceremony was usually held in the afternoon and during dinner time. Yun Jian nodded in response. Once Snake Lizard was here, the burden of the Kosha mercenaries fell entirely on Tiger Leopard. If Tiger Leopard were to rush over, he would have to make arrangements for the Kosha mercenaries before he could rush over. Of course, Tiger Leopard did not have the time, so even if he were to come, he would rush back to the Kosha mercenaries after attending Qin Yuru's wedding tomorrow. Yun Jian replied with a nod. Yun Jian came here purely to brief Snake Lizard on the arrangements, like she was taking a stroll before she went downstairs. Just as Yun Jian turned around and was about to leave with her hand on the door lock, Snake Lizard's voice came from behind her again. "Sister Jian, the Ferrari sports car you sent for repair last time is fixed. It can be brought back to Longmen City tonight. I'll send it over for you tomorrow morning." Yun Jian paused before she turned to the side and hummed in response. The brakes of her Ferrari sports car had malfunctioned and it had been sent to the factory for repair. Due to her connection with the Kosha mercenaries, the sports car was repaired at the fastest speed possible and sent back. Yun Jian's fiery red Ferrari was her favorite car that had accompanied her for years. If she could use this sports car to carry Qin Yuru to her wedding tomorrow, it would be the most gratifying thing for Yun Jian. "Send it over earlier tomorrow," Yun Jian said again before she opened the door to Snake Lizard's room and walked out. Snake Lizard did not follow her. When she saw Yun Jian leave the room, she said, "See you tomorrow," and closed the door again. Yun Jian tucked her hands into her pants pockets lazily and strolled out of the hotel. Just as she stepped out, the spring rain was still falling. Yun Jian took a whiff of the spring air and a tall man holding a black umbrella appeared beside her. Ce stood beside Yun Jian with a black umbrella. "Let's go home," Yun Jian said with a press of her lips as she walked down the stairs with Ce beside her. Ce asked softly, "Back to Xinjiang town?" Yun Jian nodded and followed Ce to his Lamborghini sports car. Although Qin Yuru was getting married for the second time, she was still getting married. Most people would keep their second marriage a simple one as they would not want others to know about it. However, Qin Yuru still had to marry from Zhang Meihua's family to save face. Of course, this was also a local custom. It was impossible for Qin Yuru to marry from Dong Ruan's family when her mother, Zhang Meihua, was still alive, right? If she really did that, she would definitely be gossiped about in this day and age. Yun Jian had just fastened her seatbelt when she got into the car when she saw that Ce had not started the car. She frowned and was about to ask Ce why he had not started the car. Ce had already turned sideways and hugged Yun Jian. A familiar scent wafted into her nose and Yun Jian was stunned. However, she placed her hand on Ce's back and hugged him gently. His chin rested on her shoulder as his breath blew beside her ear. "Xiao Jian, you're moving away after your mom gets married?" Feeling one of the girl's plump breasts pressed against his chest, Ce moved closer and hugged her as he asked faintly. Chapter 1047. There was no way he was going to admit that ever since Qin Yuru and Gu Junjian got together and set a wedding date, they were planning to get married. He was not worried about Qin Yuru being unhappy. Being with Gu Junjian, Qin Yuru was destined to be happy. This was not even within the scope of his concern. Instead, he was worried that Qin Yuru would move to Gu Yunjian's place and bring his Xiao Jian along. He had no objections to anything else, but bringing his Xiao Jian along was something he would not agree to. His Xiao Jian had to go to school and they did not have much time to see each other. If Yun Jian moved to Gu Yunjian's place, how was he going to openly hug her to sleep? How was he going to see Xiao Jian every day? You're coming too. Yun Jian curled her lips at Siyi's words and spoke like she was joking. If Siyi went with her, he would be no different from a live-in son-in-law. Yun Jian chuckled inwardly. She had never tried to embarrass the leader of the world's top assassin organization. She had never heard of anyone who could do so either. Today, she was going to make a precedent. Sensing that the woman in his arms was secretly delighted, Siyi did not expose her. Instead, he replied softly, "Okay." Of course, he had to go. How dare she plot against him? How could he let her off so easily? As he thought about it, a naughty idea popped up in Siyi's mind. In the end, Siyi drove Yun Jian back to Xinjiang town. Qin Yiru, Dong Wuan, Xiao Yunzhu, and the others were already in Xinjiang town. They would be busy the next morning and there were things that had to be done early in the morning. Qin Yiru was getting married in Xinjiang town, so the day before the wedding, she had to stay in the town. However, Adam, Lan Su, and Mo Sen still lived in Dong Ruan's house. After all, Zhang Meihua's house, which was Qin Yiru's elder brother, Qin Liqian's house, did not have so many guest rooms. Ce drove the Lamborghini back to Zhang Meihua's house in Xinjiang town with Yun Jian, leaving behind potholes on the cement ground caused by the drizzle. From afar, he could see that Zhang Meihua's house was brightly lit, and there were many people standing in the house. After the car came to a stop, Ce got out of the car first. He took out the black umbrella, opened it, and walked over to Yun Jian's front passenger seat. He opened the car door and gently shielded Yun Jian from the roof. Then, he led Yun Jian into Zhang Meihua's home. There were many people standing in the house. Of course, the important figures whom Yun Jian had invited to attend the wedding in the name of kosher mercenaries were unaware that they were not present. They only knew that on May 21, 1999, at 5 in the evening, a grand wedding was held at Tranquil Harmony Hotel. At the moment, there were not only Dong Wuan and Xiao Yunzhu who were playing in Zhang Meihua's house, but there were also some relatives, friends, and neighbors who had come to collect their wedding gifts. Gu Junjian was not present as well. The bride and groom were not allowed to meet on the night before the wedding. This was a custom. "Oh, Yiru, I didn't expect you to get married again." "Huh, your second marriage partner is a rich man too. You can even hold your wedding in a 4-star hotel. There aren't many daughters in our village who can get married like you. Isn't that so? Our Yiru is so blessed. Her daughter is the director of new crews and her husband is a high-ranking officer in the military." 2 female neighbors from the same village came over to express their goodwill and gave Qin Yiru 50 yuan as a wedding gift before speaking in a slightly jealous and envious tone. Amidst the jubilation, another woman standing not far away spoke to Qin Yiru in an even more jealous and obviously unhappy tone. Chapter 1048. The woman who spoke to Qin Yiru out of kindness but was actually very jealous was Yang Xiaochun, a neighbor who lived near Yungang's house when Qin Yiru and Yungang were still husband and wife. Yang Xiaochun was considered Qin Yiru's neighbor but they did not keep in touch after that. When Qin Yiru was down and out, Yang Xiaochun did not even bother with Qin Yiru. What about recently? Yang Xiaochun heard that Qin Yiru was getting married for the second time and that the other party was a soldier. She also heard that Qin Yiru's daughter had become the director of new crews. A rural woman like Yang Xiaochun had no idea what kind of company New Cruise was. It was precisely because she did not know about New Cruise. She had only heard that the company was impressive and was considered well-known in Longmen City. Working in New Cruise also paid a lot. That was why Yang Xiaochun reluctantly gave Qin Yiru 20 yuan as a gift and wanted to get closer to Qin Yiru. There were always people in this world who thought that they were very close to you and wanted to give you a 20 yuan gift. After giving you the money, they would be good friends again. Yang Xiaochun was such a person. She did not like Qin Yiru at all in the past. There was even one time when Qin Yiru was cooking at home and there was no salt at home. Qin Yiru had gone to Yang Xiaochun's house to borrow some. Yang Xiaochun clearly had salt at home but she was stingy, thinking that Qin Yiru would not return the salt she borrowed in the future, so she lied and said that there was no salt at home. Qin Yiru had actually gone to borrow it when she saw that Yang Xiaochun's husband had just bought a pack of salt. It was just that Qin Yiru was too embarrassed to ask for it when Yang Xiaochun refused to give it to her. Since then, however, Qin Yiru had been planning to stay away from Yang Xiaochun. Qin Yiru did not expect Yang Xiaochun to come to her house today and even give her a gift when she used to be so stingy. But in reality, 20 renminbi was considered a small amount even in the amount of money given in 1999. Generally speaking, only those old women who were so poor that they couldn't even afford to have enough food and clothing would give 20 yuan as a wedding gift for a family in the countryside. Qin Yiru did not like Yang Xiaochun to begin with. Now that Yang Xiaochun had given her a gift, she thought that she had the right to speak and even pointed fingers at Qin Yiru. The first reason Yang Xiaochun said that was jealousy. She was jealous that Qin Yiru's second marriage was more than 10 times better than other girls' marriages. No one in Xinjiang town could compare to Gu Yunjian's family background. Even in Longmen City, Gu Yunjian's family background was one of the best. Seeing that Qin Yiru was fiddling with the bridal headdress for tomorrow and ignoring her, Yang Xiaochun was indignant and said again, Yiru, we've been together for so long. Oh, Yiru, we've been neighbors for more than 10 years. Do you think I'd harm you? What are women most afraid of? What we're most afraid of is not marrying well and having a second marriage with a family after a divorce. It's uncertain if the man will treat you well in the future if you marry him. I think you're still the same as Ah Hua in Xinjiang town last month. Didn't she just throw a simple banquet for her second marriage and let it pass just like that? Dong Wan had gone to the washroom and did not support Qin Yiru, so Yang Xiaochun could still spout so much nonsense. As she spoke, Yun Jian was already in front of Qin Yiru. Chapter 1049. Yun Jian's words hinted that Yang Xiaochun was just an outsider. What right did she have to criticize her family's affairs? There were plenty of gossipy women like Yang Xiaochun in the countryside. In the city, there were more people who wrapped themselves up like noble women and thought they were high and mighty like Hua Yun. In the past, the majority of the villagers were uncultured. Therefore, they would say one thing in front of others, but when they turned a corner, they would stand behind others and point at them. This was a major phenomenon in the villages, and it was also one of the characteristics of the villages. Yang Xiaochun was just an ordinary rural woman. She felt that it was quite normal for her to criticize other people's family matters. However, when Yang Xiaochun heard Yun Jian's words, it sounded like Yun Jian was implying that she was meddling in other people's business, so Yang Xiaochun was displeased. You're Yiru's daughter, Yun Jian, aren't you? Who am I? I've been your mother's neighbor for at least a decade. I heard that you're the director of new crews. You're so young, you must be something. But I've been there. Your mother is getting married for the second time and her second marriage is even grander than an innocent maiden's. This has never happened in Longmen City. I'm doing this for your mother's sake. You'll understand in the future that I'm doing this for your family's sake. Yang Xiaochun was extremely displeased by Yun Jian's words, but she held it in considering that Yun Jian was the director of new crews and was said to have some status. Besides, you can't spend money like this even if you're rich. Unless you can have a wedding that can't be held in Longmen City, if you spend this money, it'll be your mother's second marriage. Who knows what people will say about it? When Yang Xiaochun saw that Yun Jian did not say anything, she thought that she had convinced Yun Jian. Feeling that what she said made more sense, Yang Xiaochun spoke with more vigor. Everyone was like that. Qin Yiru was getting married for the second time. If her wedding was unrivaled in Longmen City, the news would spread in the future. Qin Yiru's second marriage would be said to be a stroke of good fortune. Because this was a height that others couldn't reach, even if they were jealous. But tomorrow's wedding was just a meal at a 4-star hotel. Although it was a big deal, a lot of people would be jealous. Some people even felt that Qin Yiru's family had only made a little money, and they were already proud of it. These two concepts were completely different. Of course, Yang Xiaochun did not say this out of consideration for Qin Yiru. She was just jealous. She was jealous that Qin Yiru could find such a good man in her second marriage. If she really saw Qin Yiru get married tomorrow, she would definitely feel very uncomfortable in her heart. Moreover, Yang Xiaochun had said, unless you guys can arrange a wedding that no one in Longmen City can do. Yang Xiaochun was not the only one who did not believe that Qin Yiru could arrange such a wedding. Everyone present, including Qin Yiru herself, did not believe that it could be done. You don't have to worry about what others say. I really believe that you're thinking for my family now that you can leave this place. Yun Jian stood in front of Ce, looking at Yang Xiaochun with her arms crossed and a slight scorn in her eyes. Everyone present could clearly hear the intention of sending them off between the lines. You. Yang Xiaochun's breath hitched at Yun Jian's words this time. She pointed at Yun Jian in exasperation and could not hold herself back from shouting. I'm thinking for your family. You actually. Great, great. Chapter 1050. With that, Yang Xiaochun stormed off in a huff. Just as she stepped out of Zhang Meihua's house, Yang Xiaochun muttered inwardly, I must pay back with interest when I go to a 4-star hotel for dinner tomorrow. Oh right, she would have to bring her husband and child along when the time came. Moreover, she had only paid 20 yuan as a share. It was definitely worth it for the three of them to dine in a 4-star hotel. After Yang Xiaochun left, there were a few women standing by the side. Although they were a little envious of Qin Yiru for marrying so well in her second marriage, it was only in their hearts. Their expressions and words were still blessings. Yiru, we don't like Yang Xiaochun in the first place. Don't stoop to her level, one of the women told Qin Yiru. As the woman spoke, she turned to Yun Jian, her gaze brimming with charm. Yiru is her daughter. Don't hold it against someone like that. It's not worth it if you hurt yourself for someone like that. As it turned out, after Yang Xiaochun left, the atmosphere took a turn for the better. Hey, Yiru, is this your son-in-law? He's so handsome. I've never seen such a handsome young man in my life. As they chatted, the women shifted the topic to Yun Jian and Ce. The woman who knew how to charm just now was looking at Ce and fawning over Qin Yiru. Everything else aside, the woman was sincere in praising Ce's good looks. Qin Yiru was delighted to hear the woman's words. Since Ce and her daughter were already acting like this, Qin Yiru wanted to agree as well. However, Ce beat her to it and told the woman, Xiao Jian is mine. Ce's reply was swift, as if he was afraid that others would not know that Yun Jian was his. When the group of women and old ladies heard this, they all laughed happily and made fun of her. The night passed quickly. The next day arrived as promised. At 5:00 in the morning, Yun Jian had already gotten up when the sun had just risen. On the morning of May 21, 1999, the sun rose with a smile. Last night, it was still drizzling and the night breeze was chilly. On the morning of the 21st, the sky was completely clear. White clouds even appeared on the horizon in the morning, indicating that it was going to be a sunny day. Hurry up and prepare breakfast. After breakfast, we can prepare lunch to welcome the wedding team. Some neighbors came to help and started to get busy. Dinner was eaten in a 4-star hotel, but lunch was ordered in a large pot of rice. There were many customs for marriage in the countryside. For example, what time the dowry should be delivered to the groom's house, and what time the bride should be delivered to the groom's house. At this moment, in Qin Yiru's room, Yun Jian stood in front. Qin Yiru sat in front of a simple dressing table. There were a few women standing beside her, one of them was Yang Xiaochun from yesterday. Raccoon was squatting on the floor and organizing her makeup box that was several layers thick. She had yet to put on Qin Yiru's makeup. The makeup box was actually used by Raccoon to disguise people. Raccoon had a baby face, so she looked very young. She looked like she was only 15 despite being 25 years old. Watching Raccoon squatting on the floor and organizing the makeup box, Yang Xiaochun's untimely voice rang again. How old is this girl? Does she really know how to put on makeup? Watching Raccoon take out various items from the makeup box skillfully, Yang Xiaochun was reminded that she did not know anything, so she spoke sourly again. Chapter 1051. Despite what Yang Xiaochun had said yesterday, she did not plan to fall out with Qin Yiru and Yun Jian. After all, Qin Yiru was going to marry a rich man and Yun Jian was the director of new crews now. She dared not offend someone of such high status. Yang Xiaochun felt that everything she said was reasonable and she had a confidence that she did not know where it came from. She felt that she was right. More importantly, she felt that in the end, even Qin Yiru and Yun Jian would agree with her point of view and treat her differently. They might even see her as their savior. It was also this concept that made Yang Xiaochun even more firm in his beliefs. Because of this, Yang Xiaochun came here early in the morning. Half squatting on the ground, Tanuki fiddled with her makeup box sparsely. Listening to the incessant chatter, she resisted the urge to kill Yang Xiaochun and the group of chattering women and spoke to Yun Jian. "Why are you here?" "Sister Jian, I need a quiet environment." Once Tanuki said that, Yun Jian knocked on the door casually and ordered Yang Xiaochun and the chattering women to leave. "My mom needs makeup. Get out." She was not asking them to leave but ordering them to do so in a commanding tone. The chattering women, including Yang Xiaochun, were stunned by Yun Jian's firm tone. After all, girls were usually gentle and quiet. None of them were like Yun Jian, who would order people around the moment she opened her mouth. In spite of it, considering that Yun Jian was the director of new crews, she was different in certain matters. Thus, the women went down the stairs while chattering. Yang Xiaochun, on the other hand, was a typical blabbermouth among the rural women. Once she heard Yun Jian's imposing words and saw the other women around her walking down the stairs, she grumbled as she followed them down the stairs. "What's wrong with you? Oh my, what's with this person? It's a big day today." Forget that she didn't listen to me when I gave her some suggestions, she even chased us out. "Hey! Say, Yiru's daughter has quite the temper. She's earning a lot now but with her temper, who would dare to marry her in the future?" Yang Xiaochun had left in a huff yesterday, so she did not hear Ce saying that Xiao Jian was mine. The women around her glanced at Yang Xiaochun from the corner of their eyes but did not respond to her. Inside the room, Qin Yiru, who was already dressed in her wedding gown, sat in front of the dressing table. Yun Jian told Tanuki before closing the door and going downstairs. Downstairs was already bustling with activity. Zhang Meihua wanted to please Yun Jian now, so she hired many old women to help with the wedding. Most of the people downstairs who came to help had already started eating breakfast. After breakfast, they busied themselves with lunch and sent the dowry to the groom's house first after the bridal escort team came over for lunch. Then, they set a time to send the bride to the groom's house at 3:30 p.m. After the lively ceremony was over, they would send the bride, groom, and bride's relatives to Clear Rhythm Hotel at 4:30 p.m. for the wedding ceremony that night. This was the process of a village wedding in a big hotel. After breakfast, Yang Xiaochun sat on a stool to help peel potatoes. As she did so, she complained to the crowd around her, "I say, Yiru's daughter, the makeup artist she found for her is too young. What kind of makeup can a makeup artist like her do?" Yun Jian was standing not too far away. Just as Yang Xiaochun said that, someone pointed at the staircase noisily. "The bride is coming down." Yang Xiaochun looked over in disdain and happened to see Qin Yiru coming down the stairs. Chapter 1052. Qin Yiru was already in her 40s. She had spent her entire life worrying about Yun Jian and Yun Yi. In the first half of her life, she had to support the Yun family. Her youthful beauty had long turned into calluses and wrinkles on her hands, as well as a plump rural woman. However, ever since she divorced Yun Gang and escaped from the huge fire pit that was the Yun family, Qin Yiru had completely changed. Her originally yellowish skin, which was due to overwork, had also turned fair. More importantly, Qin Yiru had been going jogging in the park these days. Now that she no longer had a job, she was living a comfortable life. More importantly, she no longer had to work hard. When a person's body and mind were comfortable, their weight would naturally decrease. Qin Yiru's current weight and appearance were both quite good. In addition, Qin Yiru's facial features were very good, which Yun Jian had inherited from her. Therefore, there was also Raccoon's exquisite makeup skills. Chin Yiru, who came down from the stairs, had on natural makeup. That simple and elegant makeup made it seem as if she was born with it. At first glance, her snow-white wedding dress outlined her graceful waist that had recently lost weight. No matter from which angle one looked at her, she was so beautiful that one could not take their eyes off her. This makeup paired with the wedding dress made Chin Yiru, who came down from upstairs, look 20 years younger. This makeup did not look thick, but it was actually very delicate. This was Raccoon's ability. She could cover up a person's makeup, but she could also make the person look younger by a few decades after the makeup. Raccoon could even disguise a person as another person. With just this bit of makeup, it was not difficult for her at all. However, after Chin Yiru put on the makeup, she did not look old at all, even when she stood next to Yunjian. Therefore, when the people downstairs saw Chin Yiru, they all shouted in surprise. At this moment, Yang Xiaochun, who had been complaining to the people around her about how good Chin Yiru's makeup could be, stood there in a daze. On the other end, Chin Yiru slowly held onto the railing of the staircase and lifted the hem of her white wedding dress as she walked down. She was all smiles, but just by looking at her face, she really looked like a young lady in her 20s. It was no exaggeration to say that this makeup made Chin Yiru look 20 years younger. Oh my god. Was this really Yiru? This was simply 20 years younger. The group of gossipy women who were standing there were all dumbfounded. They stood there in a daze, not knowing what to do. It wasn't that they were ignorant, but the impact of this makeup was too great. There wasn't a single person present who wasn't shocked. Among them, the one with the worst expression was Yang Xiaochun, because before this, she had been criticizing Raccoon's makeup skills. What about now? Chin Yiru's makeup was probably second to none in the entire Longmen city, Zhe province, or even the entire country, who was as skilled as Raccoon. It was then that Yunjian walked to Chin Yiru. She carefully helped Chin Yiru's hand up and pulled Chin Yiru downstairs. Mom, I'll get breakfast for you. Take a seat first. Yunjian had already pulled Chin Yiru to the dining table. Just as they reached the table, a young man from the same village who came to help suddenly rushed in. The young man ran in, panting. Before he could finish his breath, he pointed in the direction of the door and shouted in horror, "The door! The entire road from the door to the groom's house is covered with a red carpet. From the beginning to the end." Who did this? What? Everyone present was dumbfounded when they heard the young man's words. When ordinary families got married, the most they would do was to lay out a red carpet in the church. While red carpets were not the most expensive, it was still a huge expense to lay out more. In the end, the entire road from the door to the groom's house was covered with a red carpet. The groom's house was in Longmen City. It was a long distance from Xinjiang town. Everyone present was so scared that their faces froze. Chapter 1053. The group's attention was drawn to the melodious female voice, only to see Yunjian with her arms crossed in front of her with a smirk, looking at everyone in front of her openly. When they saw that the melodious voice came from Yunjian, everyone was shocked and terrified. When they snapped out of it, they suppressed their fear on the surface, but their hearts were in turmoil. What did the young man say? He said that it would start from Zhang Meihua's house, which was Xinjiang town, and end at Gu Yunjian's house in Longmen City. The distance should be at least 30 to 40 kilometers. 30 to 40 kilometers. 1 kilometer was 1,000 meters. A distance of 30 to 40 kilometers was covered with red carpets. How many red carpets would be used to pave the entire road? Just how much RMB would it take to achieve such a feat? It was unheard of in the entire Longmen City, Zhe province, or even the entire country. Especially in 1999, it was already considered respectable if people could afford 2 wedding cars in this era, especially if they were from a common brand. It was grand enough. As for laying out a red carpet that was 3 to 4 kilometers from the bride's house to the groom's house, those present had never heard of it. Even if they had thought of it, they would not dare to imagine it. How much would it cost? How much manpower would it take? Everyone present, including the gossipy women, Yang Xiaochun, Zhang Meihua, Qin Liqian's family, and many others who came to help, stared at the scene unfolding before them with widened eyes. Yun Jian took 2 steps toward the young man who had barged in with a roar just now. She wore a bright smile with a slight curl of her lips. Her face without any makeup was delicate and beautiful. Yun Jian pressed her lips together and said faintly, "Don't make a fuss. I got someone to pave it." Yang Xiaochun paled even more after Yun Jian spoke. Yang Xiaochun did not expect Yun Jian to be so rich. Was her new cruise really that profitable? Yang Xiaochun did not know that New Cruise was a company that sold cars. She merely thought that Yun Jian had started a small company. Yang Xiaochun's face was pale. She was jealous that Yun Jian could take out so much money. Therefore, as soon as Yun Jian finished speaking, Yang Xiaochun immediately said, How much will this cost? Even the rich don't have such extravagance." At this moment, the entire place was silent. Obviously, everyone was shocked by what Yun Jian had done. Even Qin Yiru was dumbfounded. At the same time, she stared blankly at the scene in front of her. However, Yang Xiaochun's words implied that Yun Jian had no money but pretended to be rich. Such a sentence stunned the surrounding people once again. There were even some people who couldn't stand it anymore, so they stood up and said to Yang Xiaochun, "Yang Xiaochun, you talk too much. Other people's family matters are none of your business. What are you saying? Today is such a happy day, and you're the only one who talks too much." That person had just reprimanded Yang Xiaochun. Yun Jian continued speaking, but Yun Jian ignored Yang Xiaochun completely. She only turned her gaze to Qin Yiru. "Mom, you used to work hard for me and my brother, shouldering all the burdens yourself. Now that I'm all grown up, I won't be as insensible as before. Today's red carpet is my first wedding gift to you. You'll always be my mom." Yun Jian's words were for the original owner of the body as well as for herself. Ever since she was reborn, Qin Yiru had never vented her bitterness in front of her. Qin Yiru had always kept the bitterness to herself and left the best for her children. Chapter 1054. Yun Jian ignored Yang Xiaochun. As long as Yang Xiaochun did not cross her bottom line, there was no need for her to care about a job-hopping clown. Why? It was too degrading. There was no need for that. Who would waste so much time arguing with a person like Yang Xiaochun and spouting nonsense? Yun Jian did not have to do that. In spite of it, what Yun Jian said to Qin Yiru was from the bottom of her heart. She had wanted to say these words to Qin Yiru for a long time. "You'll always be my mom" might sound like nothing to ordinary people, but to Yun Jian, it meant something entirely different. In her previous life, she had no family, friendship, or love. She only knew who she could benefit from working with, like snake, lizard and tiger, leopard. They were old friends of hers. In spite of it, Yun Jian had kept her bottom line even when snake, lizard and tiger, leopard knew a lot of her secrets. She did not have a heart back then. After her rebirth, be it Qin Yiru or Yun Yi, both of them had taught her something. It was family. Now, she knew what kinship was all about. Xiao Jian. Qin Yiru could not help shuddering when she heard what Yun Jian said. She had hidden all the hardships she had suffered all these years in her heart, trying to leave the best for her daughter and son. Qin Yiru was not a god, neither was she a remarkable person. She was just an ordinary village woman, an ordinary person who could not be more ordinary. "Xiao Jian, you child, why are you speaking so maturely?" Qin Yiru stuttered as she recalled the past. She felt a lump in her throat, but she swallowed it quickly. "Mom." Yun Jian came over and lifted Qin Yiru's face gently, wiping away Qin Yiru's tears that were about to fall from Qin Yiru's eyes. "Mom is the prettiest woman today," Yun Jian said with a knowing smile. "Look, you're 20 years younger now." Yun Jian's words made Qin Yiru smile through her tears. You child. You're real. As she spoke, she was slowly comforted. Seeing that Qin Yiru was comforted, Yang Xiaochun pulled a long face again. That was right. She could not stand Qin Yiru's good behavior. Pretending when you're not capable. Yiru, I'm not criticizing your family. I just think that your daughter doesn't know how to manage the family. If she spends like this, she'll spend all her family's wealth. Yang Xiaochun pretended to be innocent even though she had taken advantage of the situation. She had said that Yun Jian liked rich people who pretended to be rich, but she still pretended that she was thinking for Qin Yiru's family. There were many people like her in real life. However, just as Yang Xiaochun finished speaking, someone outside the door led a few people into the house. They're here, they're here. The loading team from the groom's house is here. Someone called out and brought a few tall and burly men into the house. The loading team here referred to the team that drove the truck to load the bride's dowry to the groom's house. It was not the same as the wedding car that drove the bride to the groom's house. The bridal team is here too. Look, that's, what brand of wedding car is that? Another voice came from the door. Yun Jian raised a brow. Just as she thought of that, the person standing at the door exclaimed, 2? 3? No, 4? 5, 6? 18? 18 wedding cars? I'm not seeing things, am I? The car at the front, if I'm not mistaken, is it a Rolls-Royce? Chapter 1055. Those standing at the door were burly men who had come to help. These men who Gu Junjian had sent to pack the dowry were brothers from the military. They had already entered the house. The men who were discussing outside the house were from the same village who had come to help. These men liked to read the newspaper while smoking a cigarette after they were done with work. They did not have any outstanding talents, but they read a lot of newspapers. Sometimes, they could even see various branded cars printed in the newspaper. As for cars like Rolls-Royce and supercars, these men had seen them in the newspapers, but they had never seen a real car. Therefore, they did not recognize it at first glance. 1999, what era was this? It was an era where the economy was still developing. It was an era where some people could only send the bride to the groom's house with motorcycles. When rich people got married, they would hire 2 wedding cars, especially small cars like Volkswagen and Santana, which were affordable. However, there were very few people who could afford such cars in 1999. Those who were poor would either drive motorcycles or tractors to send the bride to her wedding. This was not too bad. Those who were really poor could not even afford motorcycles and tractors, so they registered a marriage certificate. Since they could not afford a banquet, they would drag it on until their children grew up and saved enough money before holding a banquet. Therefore, there were 18 wedding cars with a Rolls-Royce at the front and a string of supercars at the back. The men who had come to help at the door were so shocked that they dropped their cigarettes to the floor. 18 wedding cars. This was shocking. 18 wedding cars. Other than the Rolls-Royce at the front, there were 17 supercars at the back. Such a lineup in 1999 would not be as simple as being surprised and impressed by the other party's wealth. This was going to scare the hell out of people. The men who were talking at the door were so shocked that their hearts were about to stop breathing. Yun Jian and the others who were standing in the house heard the commotion outside. Xiao Jian, this is... What's this? Qin Yiru tugged at Yun Jian's hand. She looked stunning with makeup on. Yiru, what's wrong? Qin Yiru had just held Yun Jian's hand and asked when Dong Ruan's voice came from upstairs. Qin Yiru had just had her makeup done when Dong Ruan rushed over from Longmen City. She then went up to let the civet do its makeup as well. Dong Ruan was the main bridesmaid today. According to the customs of the village, the bridesmaid should be an unmarried woman. However, it was Qin Yiru's idea to let Dong Ruan be the main bridesmaid. As soon as Dong Ruan appeared, her enchanting face was put on makeup by a raccoon. Just like Qin Yiru, her age was reduced by 20 years. Everyone present was shocked once again. This also showed that Raccoon's makeup skills were superb. Mom, they are probably here. I'll go and take a look. Yunjian narrowed her eyes, then patted Qin Yiru's hand and went out of the house. Seeing that Yunjian had gone out, Yang Xiaochun and the other women, as well as many of the people present, scrambled to follow. At this moment, everyone walked out of the house and saw 18 decorated wedding cars parked at the entrance. These cars were brands that no one present had ever heard of. Hearing the men's exclamations outside the door just now, the women did not know what was so surprising about these cars. Yang Xiaochun went up to the men and asked, "What were you guys yelling about just now?" With so many cars, it was indeed very grand. These cars looked quite beautiful, but couldn't they be borrowed? What's there to be surprised about? In fact, Yang Xiaochun was already making a fuss in his heart. Chapter 1056. It was not a joke that there was not a single Rolls-Royce in the entire Longmen city. The year 1999 was an era where economic development was about to soar. In this era, the gap between the rich and the poor was gradually widening. In spite of this, Longmen city was still in a state of subsistence. In other words, there were not many people who were truly rich, and those who were rich did not have to spend all their wealth to buy a luxurious car like the Rolls-Royce that cost 4 to 5 million yuan. Therefore, there was not a single Rolls-Royce in the entire Longmen city. What did it mean when it appeared at Qin Yiru's wedding today? What? This car is so rare. It costs 5 million yuan. Yang Xiaochun was indeed shocked. Her eyes widened in surprise, but in the end, she still took a deep breath. Even if there was none in Longmen city, it did not mean that Yunjian had bought it. Could she afford a Rolls-Royce worth 5 million yuan? Moreover, when newlyweds were getting married, wedding cars were usually rented from car dealers. Ordinary families would borrow cars from people in the same village or their relatives or friends who owned cars. After the wedding, they would give a big red packet to their friends and relatives who had lent the car to them or people from the same village. Yang Xiaochun naively thought that the Rolls-Royce was rented by Yunjian. But I think this car was rented from somewhere else. It costs 5 million yuan. How could she afford it? Yang Xiaochun grumbled inwardly. Just as she finished speaking, the burly man beside her glanced askance at Yang Xiaochun like he was looking at an ignorant and illiterate person. Rolls-Royce. Where did you rent it from? There are so many rich people in Longmen city, but we don't even have one. There was a pause before he continued. Besides, didn't Qin Yiru's daughter start New Cruise? Are you stupid? The company she owned, New Cruise, was a company that sold cars. It earned tens of millions of yuan in profit every year. She can earn so much in a year by selling cars in her own company. She can buy it herself. It's nothing. The burly man's words hit Yang Xiaochun right where her heart was. Yang Xiaochun thought that Yunjian's New Cruise was a small company at most. However, never in her wildest dreams would she have thought that Yunjian's New Cruise was a car seller. Annual profits of at least tens of millions? Was this a joke? A company like this could be ranked in the entire Longmen city, no, in the entire Zhe province. Oh my God. Why did she talk to Yunjian like that before? Yang Xiaochun was filled with regret. Just as Yang Xiaochun was filled with regret, Ce got out of the black Lamborghini sports car. His tall and handsome figure attracted the attention of countless girls and women. However, his eyes were fixed on Yunjian the whole time as he walked towards her. After Ce got out of the car, 4 figures got out of the Rolls-Royce and the other 3 limited edition sports cars. The 4 of them were so handsome that they could make anyone cry. All the men present deeply doubted their own appearance. These 4 people were the 4 leaders of Anhun. Adam, Mo Sen, Shuang, Lin Wei. Today, the 4 leaders of Anhun were escorting Qin Yiru to the groom's house, Gu Yunjian's house. There had never been such a grand procession since ancient times. Ce had already come to Yunjian under everyone's watchful eyes. Just as everyone thought that CE would show off his sports car in front of everyone like many young lads of his age, CE stood before CE. CE went to stand in front of Yunjian and slowly held her hand. In front of everyone, he spoke in his rich male voice, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry." Chapter 1057. CE was different from the usual guys. If he were a normal guy, he would probably be standing in front of the crowd to show off these 18 luxury cars proudly. His bragging would probably reach the heavens. Any youth in their adolescence or in their 20s would have a competitive mentality. Some young guys would even think that they had hit the jackpot and flaunt their prowess in front of the older generation, as if they were part of the new generation's fashion trend. The more handsome a person was, the more pretentious they were. CE, however, was the complete opposite. There were so many sports cars parked behind him and he was the one who drove them here, but he had no intention of showing off. Instead, he went to Yunjian and spoke with such sincerity that it stirred her heart. There wasn't the slightest bit of sweet talk in these words, but it was enough to let everyone present feel his heart. His feelings for Yunjian. Yunjian's hand was gently held by CE and her heart fluttered when she heard his words. Yunjian did not act pretentiously in front of everyone. Looking at CE, she finally nodded in agreement. It was undeniable that Yunjian was tempted. Good, good, good. Haha. Adam, who was here to spoil the mood, suddenly clapped his hands and cheered at this crucial moment. However, before Adam could finish his words, Mo-sun, who was beside him, raised his hand and knocked on his head. The corners of Adam's lips twitched before he shut his mouth. Adam had fully recovered from his injuries and Lan Su did not need to support him anymore. Adam clapped his hands because he was excited just now. Their young master was planning to marry a young mistress. This was great. And Hun Group had a successor. However, Adam had no idea how much he had spoiled the mood with his action just now. Mo-sun could not be blamed for giving Adam a head-on blow. No one saw how pale Yang Xiaochun's face was at this moment. She had thought that Yunjian was just the boss of a small company. After all, it was already an impressive feat for an underage girl to be the boss of a small company in this day and age. If Yunjian was only the boss of a small company, she could only stand out among her peers and could not compare to the big bosses of Longmen City. However, she had just found out that Yunjian's company was actually one of the top companies in Zhe province. More importantly, the Rolls-Royce that cost 5 million was actually Yunjian's. Most importantly, at this moment, there was such an outstanding man who used a method that all women in the world would be envious of to confess to her in front of everyone. Yang Xiaochun also admitted that he was jealous. The bride is out. The bride is coming out. Just as Yang Xiaochun was clenching his fists in jealousy, someone shouted excitedly. Qin Yiru heard the noise outside, so she just came out to take a look. After all, it was not time to send the bride off yet. It was still morning and the dowry had yet to be packed and sent to the groom's house. The time to send the bride off was later than when the dowry was packed and sent to the groom's house. It was currently set to be 3:30 p.m. What's wrong, Xiao Jian? Qin Yiru had just come out with Dong Wan when she widened her eyes at the rows of super sports cars in front of her. Other than the first one, the rest are rented. Yiru, your daughter's really capable. Yang Xiaochun said sourly to the girl, indignant again. Chapter 1058. Out of the 18 wedding cars, one was a Rolls-Royce while the other 17 were supercars. All 18 of them were Yunjian's dowry to Qin Yiru. This was the dowry that this girl who was not even 18 had given to her mother. Everyone present was stunned. At this moment it was as if a huge wave had struck their hearts, and they were filled with terror. It was just a Rolls-Royce, but it cost no less than 5 million Chinese yuan. 5 million Chinese yuan. To the people in 1999, in an era where wages were not high, such a dowry was rare even in the whole of country Z, let alone Longmen City. Even those rich and powerful families would not be able to do this. All of this was done by an underage girl who was not even 18 yet. Yang Xiaochun was indignant just now. That was why she had told Qin Yiru in such a tone that other than the first Rolls-Royce being Yunjian's, the rest were rented. In spite of it, Yang Xiaochun had no idea how she had gotten her hands on the Rolls-Royce and the other supercars. It was just her jealousy that made her say what she did just now. Yunjian's words came after she had spoken. This feeling was as if her mask had been pierced right in front of her face, making Yang Xiaochun lose all face in front of the crowd. As a result, Yang Xiaochun's complexion instantly paled. Her complexion was terrifyingly pale. What? Xiao Jian, what are you talking about? These cars. Qin Yiru was from a village after all. Although she had gradually accepted the fact that Yun Jian was New Cruise's director, the scene before her still frightened her. Mom, these are just a part of it. Yun Jian moved her hand away from Siyi's and placed it gently on Qin Yiru's shoulder before looking at Qin Yiru and telling her seriously. She paused and added, you don't have to care about the rest. You just need to know that you're the most beautiful bride in the world today. Yun Jian knew what Qin Yiru was going to say. There were so many luxury cars and supercars. Qin Yiru must be worried that Yun Jian had used New Cruise's funds and that Yun Jian would put New Cruise in a dilemma just to make herself look good. Mothers would always think about their children's future, but sometimes children couldn't think about their own mothers. In spite of it, when Qin Yiru saw her daughter being so considerate of her, she was instantly embraced by the love of kinship. She was truly comforted. Huh? Why are there 2 wedding cars coming from that direction? These cars, what brand are they? Why haven't I seen them before? Someone suddenly pointed into the distance and asked. Everyone's gaze turned to the direction the person was pointing at. 2 sports cars that were even more luxurious than the supercars were slowly making their way over from the corner. Mom, there are a total of 20 wedding cars today. Of the 2 cars behind, the red one is mine. You're getting married today, so I hope you can sit in my car and get married in style. Yun Jian turned to Qin Yiru and said with a smirk, a beautiful glint flashing in her eyes. Just as she said that, the men around them recognized the 2 sports cars that drove in later. That's the flagship limited edition Ferrari LaFerrari. There are only 3 of them in the world. Chapter 1059. These burly men were all from the countryside, but they had seen many reports about famous cars in the newspapers. Men usually loved toys like toy guns and racing cars when they were young, and they loved sports cars when they grew up. Therefore, when the burly men saw the Ferrari and Lamborghini limited edition sports cars slowly driving in, they were so scared that their eyeballs almost popped out. Yun Jian and Siyi's cars did not make an appearance earlier because the previous 18 cars were Yun Jian's dowry for her mother, Qin Yiru. As for the 2 limited edition sports cars that came later, they belonged to Yun Jian and Siyi. Yun Jian had been planning this for a long time. She planned to send Qin Yiru off to her wedding with her beloved cars that had been with her for 2 lifetimes in a grand manner. The few big men knew that the Ferrari and Lamborghini were expensive, but some of the women around them didn't know at all. From the outside, these 2 sports cars were indeed much better looking than the previous 18 cars. However, what was a limited edition flagship? They did not understand. Hey, what do you mean by a limited edition flagship? What's this about only being sold in the world? Yang Xiaochun went to one of the men to ask since she did not understand. She had taken too many blows, but she did not believe that Yun Jian could give her another round of blows. Yang Xiaochun was only a village woman. She did not know much and had probably only been to Longmen City once or twice in her life. The number of times she had been there could not be more than that on one hand. In addition, she had stayed in Xinjiang town for so long and had nowhere to ask. How could she possibly know what a limited edition flagship was? Oh, my. You don't even know what a limited edition is. The man glanced at Yang Xiaochun like she was a country bumpkin and said. He paused again before he began to explain slowly, a limited edition product. The manufacturer only sells a few of the same product. Look at that Ferrari sports car, there are only 3 of them in the world. And that Lamborghini, there's only one in the world. How can a car like this not be expensive? It's priceless. You can't buy it even if you have money. Only those with power and influence can get it. When the burly man said this, his expression was already quite excited. However, the man's excited expression only made Yang Xiaochun's face turn paler and paler. What do you mean there are only 3 in the world? Only one? Isn't this a priceless treasure? Moreover, only people with power and influence could buy it. Some people couldn't even get such a limited edition item even if they had the money. When Yang Xiaochun heard the burly man's words, he almost fainted from fright. Amidst the hubbub around them, Yun Jian carefully held Qin Yiru's hand and walked into the house. As for Yun Jian's request, Qin Yiru naturally agreed. Xinjiang Town, Yun Gang's house. What kind of sin have I committed? Gamble, 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 all you know is to gamble. You. Lu Lanhua pointed at Yun Gang, who had just returned from the casino and was once again in debt. She was so angry that blood almost rushed to her head. Ever since Yun Gang divorced Qin Yiru, he had been completely dispirited. Last time, he was caught by the casino and was threatened to cripple him if he didn't return the money. He even implicated Yun Zheng. Later, it was Yun Jian who stepped in to protect Yun Zheng and left Yun Gang to his own devices. Yun Gang was lucky enough to escape, but he gambled again. This time, Lu Lanhua was so angry that she almost vomited blood. As the original owner's grandmother, Lu Lanhua often scolded Qin Yiru, saying what was wrong with a man cheating and what was wrong with a man gambling. Chapter 1060. Yun Gang sat on the ground dispiritedly. There were countless beer bottles around him. He knew that today was his ex-wife Qin Yiru's wedding. He had heard that today was his ex-wife's wedding, but he could only sit there indifferently. Actually, when he started gambling and had an affair, he felt that he had let Qin Yiru down. However, as a man who cheated on his wife for a long time, he naturally forgot about it. He had feelings for Qin Yiru, but as time passed and he was addicted to gambling, he forgot about it. Now that he thought about it, he still felt that he had let her down. Now that his ex-wife had remarried, he heard that she was a soldier and was very upright. Yun Gang thought that this was good too. He was already useless, so he should be the only one who was useless. They were living well. This was good. Actually, when he signed the divorce papers with Qin Yiru, Yun Gang did not make a fuss. Outsiders thought that Yun Gang was afraid of his father and had no choice but to sign the papers because of old master Yun Zhong. But in fact, Yun Gang thought it through and did not want to make a fuss. He did not even think about not agreeing to the divorce. You piece of trash. How did I give birth to such a useless son? Lu Lanhua scolded her own son when she was angry. Not only did she scold him, she also picked up a mop and hit Yun Gang. What have I done? Gambling. Who asked you to gamble? Why don't you die outside? Who asked you to gamble? Who asked you to gamble to your heart's content? Every time Lu Lanhua said a word, she hit Yun Gang with the mop. Yun Gang was paralyzed on the ground and did not move. He did not scream or move. This old woman was ruthless. She did not even care about her own son. Why? Because this son was too useless. In the past, Qin Yiru was around. Loan sharks never came to their door, but this time was different. Qin Yiru was gone, and all the heavy responsibilities were put on Lu Lanhua's shoulders. Lu Lanhua finally understood Qin Yiru's pain. But when Lu Lanhua experienced all this, she dealt with it by hitting Yun Gang. Die. Why don't you die? Die. How dare you implicate the family? Do you want to kill me too? Die, die. Don't die at home. Ah. Lu Lanhua was about to go crazy. Orchid, Orchid. Ah. Orchid, what are you doing? Seeing Lu Lanhua beating and scolding Yun Gang without treating him as a human, Lu Lanhua's only friend, who was about the same age as Lu Lanhua, rushed in from outside. Seeing this scene, she was so frightened that she hurriedly stopped Lu Lanhua from hitting Yun Gang. Seeing that, Lu Lanhua knew that she shouldn't air her dirty linen in public, so she stopped. "What's the matter?" Lu Lanhua asked quickly. Her expression was solemn, and the wrinkles on her face were clearly visible. "Orchid. Don't you know? I just saw your ex-daughter-in-law remarry. Her daughter gave your ex-daughter-in-law 18 sports cars. A sports car. I heard that a car costs 5 million yuan. Also, the red carpet from Zhang Meihua's house all the way to the groom's house is 30 to 40 kilometers long. Io, how much did that red carpet cost? I think the scale of this wedding is one of the best in the country, let alone Longmen City. No one can compare to it." The old woman was Lu Lanhua's friend. She had seen what Yun Jian had said and done at Zhang Meihua's house just now, so she hurried over to tell Lu Lanhua. "What?" The mop in Lu Lanhua's hand fell to the floor. She clenched her teeth and spat out a few words before dashing out of the house to Zhang Meihua's house, which was also the wedding venue. Chapter 1061. Yun Jian, who had not appeared in public for 2 years, was taller and more voluptuous than before. Her golden ratio was even more proportionate than before. Now that Yun Jian stood in front of everyone, she gave off a stunning vibe of disbelief that such a beautiful girl existed in this world. It was the innate aura of a king. No one could surpass or replace her. Yun Jian's appearance made Chen Dingling, who was dressed luxuriously and drove a red sedan, look like she was worth nothing in comparison. What Yun Jian said just now meant that she was Mom. While everyone was still in shock, Yun Jian was already standing in front of Qin Yiru, calling out to Qin Yiru with a smile on her red lips. Qin Yiru was scared half to death by Chen Dingling's words just now. Now that she saw that Yun Jian was safe and sound, Qin Yiru's fear was suppressed. "Xiao Jian, I thought you." Qin Yiru grabbed Yun Jian. "I've indeed been missing for 2 years," Yun Jian interrupted Qin Yiru and said with pursed lips. Hearing Yun Jian's words, Qin Yiru's heart clenched. Her Xiao Jian had really been missing for 2 years? Why did she not know about it? Dad must have kept it from you because he didn't want you to worry. Besides, he's been sending people to look for me in the dark for the past 2 years, Yun Jian added quickly, afraid that Qin Yiru would misunderstand Gujunjian. With these few words, Chen Dingling's plan to make Qin Yiru misunderstand Gujunjian fell apart. At this moment, Chen Dingling's expression was extremely ugly. Now, Qin Yiru's daughter was back. She had just announced that Yun Jian was dead in front of everyone. In the end, Yun Jian was back right after she said that. Chen Dingling shuffled her feet and was about to slip away when she was stopped in her tracks by Yun Jian's shout. "Stop right there." Yun Jian's voice carried an absolute aura, stunning Chen Dingling who was about to flee. "Do you need me to send you to hell if you wish for someone to be dead so much?" Yun Jian's frightening voice rang out, causing Chen Dingling to sweat from her forehead. Chen Dingling's makeup was ruined by her sweat. "Since you know that I've been to a hunting school, I don't mind telling you that I can kill people," Yun Jian said with a smirk. Ah. Chen Dingling was so scared that she scrambled out of the flower shop. Chen Dingling, who had been envied by everyone just now, was now rolling and crawling away as if she had been injected with chicken blood. Yun Jian was in a good mood, so she did not make a fuss. Yun Jian had a lot to tell Qin Yiru since she had just gotten home. "Mom, let's go home," Yun Jian said to Qin Yiru. "Oh, okay," Qin Yiru answered. Qin Yiru cooked a sumptuous dinner that filled Yun Jian to the brim. Gu Junjian rushed home when he heard that Yun Jian was back. Gu Junjian breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Yun Jian was back safe and sound. Chapter 1062. This time, Lu Lanhua was not here to curry favor with Yun Jian or Qin Yiru. This was because Lu Lanhua knew that she had also tried to curry favor with Yun Jian or Qin Yiru, but had failed. A person's jealousy was often terrifying. When a person set her eyes on something, she could not have it, but she could see others having it. She could even see others having something that she could never have in her lifetime. She felt that since she was done for, since she could not have it, she would destroy it. If she did not have it, others would not have it easy either. Lu Lanhua was such an old woman. Hence, when she rushed in, she had long forgotten about Yun Jian's capabilities, and had also long forgotten about Yun Jian's abilities. The surrounding crowd watched as Lu Lanhua overturned several round tables. They watched as Lu Lanhua screamed and hooted like a madwoman. Yun Jian's petite figure leaped out of the room. She was as fast as lightning, and after flying out of the room, she swept past the crowd. In just a few breaths, she had already appeared in front of Lu Lanhua. At this moment, Lu Lanhua was standing in front of a round table, about to lift the table's glass turntable and smash it. A pair of petite hands gently touched the table's glass turntable. Yun Jian's hand gently pressed down on the table's glass turntable, preventing Lu Lanhua from lifting it and smashing it to the ground. Lu Lanhua felt that the table's glass turntable was a little heavy. When she raised her head and looked in the direction of gravity, she saw Yun Jian's hand pressing down on the table's glass turntable. You. Lu Lanhua was just about to spit out some vulgar words, but before she could say anything, smack. A jade-like hand came in front of Lu Lanhua, and in front of everyone, ruthlessly slapped Lu Lanhua's wrinkled face. Lu Lanhua was very dark, almost close to being black. She was also very ugly, and her nostrils were twice the size of a normal person's, and her nose was flat. What was even more ferocious were the wrinkles on her face, and the wrinkles on her face made one's hair stand on end. Lu Lanhua was ugly, but she liked to dress very fashionably. It could be said that she was Xinjiang town's most fashionable old lady who loved to dress up. Lu Lanhua screamed and fell to the ground after being slapped by Yun Jian. In spite of it, Lu Lanhua was famous for being a tomboy in Xinjiang town. She was unusually strong as well, so she scrambled up like a madwoman after she was knocked to the ground and could not stop herself from yelling crazily. Ah! Ah, damn bitch, I'm your grandmother. How dare you lay your hands on your grandmother? You be *tch. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. Lu Lanhua shouted and rushed to the side. She picked up a long bamboo pole and rushed towards Yun Jian. The bamboo pole was in Lu Lanhua's hand and was about to stab Yun Jian. Ce was standing nearby. He resisted the urge to kill Lu Lanhua on the spot and didn't make a move. Today was Qin Yiru's wedding. It was most appropriate for Xiao Jian to handle this herself. Moreover, Xiao Jian had never been soft-hearted when dealing with people like her. As he thought about it, Yun Jian caught the long bamboo pole that Lu Lanhua was about to stab her. She held the end of the pole and wrapped her arm around it to prevent Lu Lanhua from stabbing her. Yun Jian, on the other hand, sprinted to Lu Lanhua. In the blink of an eye, Yun Jian was already in front of Lu Lanhua. She lifted her leg and kicked Lu Lanhua away in front of everyone. She caught the bamboo pole and threw it to the side. Not expecting Yun Jian to be so powerful, Lu Lanhua screamed in fright, "You can't hit me. I'm your grandmother, you." Chapter 1063. The villagers were most particular about auspiciousness. For example, if a person was holding a funeral, getting married, or a child's 1-month-old birthday, they would seek for auspiciousness. Moreover, whether it was a joyous occasion or a funeral, one should not cry or make a fuss. This was the superstition of the older generation. If someone made a fuss, it would be said to be unlucky. For example, during a wedding ceremony, people would think that they were cursing the newlyweds by using words like die 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 every time they opened their mouths. Although the slanderous words of the older generation were scary, even if it was just superstition, it was still a wedding. Who would be happy to hear someone say the word death during their wedding? Lu Lanhua was a village woman. She knew very well that such unlucky words should not be said during such a banquet. However, to Lu Lanhua, she was not having a good time now. Therefore, she did not care whether Qin Yiru would be happy or not. Furthermore, she felt that she was not having a good time. This was all Qin Yiru's fault. It was all Qin Yiru's fault for wanting to divorce her son, Yun Gang, and then pushing all the blame onto her. Therefore, Lu Lanhua had rushed over without a care for her life. Even if she could not destroy Qin Yiru, she definitely could not let Qin Yiru get married in such a grand manner. Unfortunately, Lu Lanhua had forgotten about Yun Jian's existence. To be honest, Yun Jian was also angry when she saw Lu Lanhua's crazy actions. She also had a temper and a bottom line. Qin Yiru was her bottom line. Therefore, Yun Jian pulled away the bamboo pole that Lu Lanhua was stabbing towards her. She walked over and directly grabbed Lu Lanhua's short hair. Lu Lanhua was in so much pain that she was about to die when Yun Jian pulled her up from the ground by her hair. Ah! Wretched girl! Slut! I'll kill you! I'll kill you! Just now, when Yun Jian took advantage of her seniority, Yun Jian still attacked her. Lu Lanhua immediately revealed her true colors. The pain of her scalp being torn apart made Lu Lanhua's face instantly turn pale. She raised her hand and slapped Yun Jian like a madwoman, as if she had a blood feud with Yun Jian. Lu Lanhua's fingernails were very long, and there were even black nail shavings in her fingernails. If Yun Jian's tender skin was scratched by Lu Lanhua, she would definitely bleed on the spot. But how could Yun Jian do as Lu Lanhua wished? Yun Jian grabbed Lu Lanhua's hair and pulled her up from the ground. At this moment, Lu Lanhua stretched out her hand and bared her fangs and brandished her claws to attack her. At this moment, Yun Jian was one step ahead of Lu Lanhua. She raised her leg and kicked Lu Lanhua's abdomen. Bang! Everyone present looked at the scene in front of them in horror. Lifting her leg, she sent Lu Lanhua flying several meters away with a kick. Oh my God! Why is Yiru's daughter so fierce? Someone could not help exclaiming when they saw her. Meanwhile, the surrounding people who were exclaiming saw Yun Jian walking toward Lu Lanhua, who had been flung away. Lu Lanhua's behavior earlier made everyone extremely disgusted. At this moment, no one reached out to save her. They even felt relieved when they saw Lu Lanhua being kicked away by Yun Jian. After all, Lu Lanhua's character in Xinjiang town was exceptionally bad. She even quarreled with someone. At this moment, Yun Jian strolled toward Lu Lanhua. She walked slowly to Lu Lanhua and kicked Lu Lanhua's abdomen before Lu Lanhua rolled and tried to stand up. Then, she bent over slightly and stared straight at Lu Lanhua with her murderous eyes. As she spoke, she even reached out to pat Lu Lanhua's cheek. Chapter 1064. Yun Jian's words were strange and everyone's ears shuddered when they heard it. Lu Lanhua had a bad reputation in Xinjiang town. Other than the old woman who had complained to Lu Lanhua, there was no one else in town who was close to Lu Lanhua. There had been a few before, but whenever Lu Lanhua came into contact with benefits, Lu Lanhua would turn her back on them. The funniest thing was that whenever Lu Lanhua thought badly of someone or argued with someone, she would rush to that person's house to cause trouble even after a few days. In the end, the entire Xinjiang town disliked her. Moreover, the eyes of the entire town were bright as snow. They were all watching. Every time Qin Yiru argued with Yun Gang, it was obvious that Qin Yiru was in the right. However, Lu Lanhua would rush up to Qin Yiru and hit and scold her. Lu Lanhua did not treat Qin Yiru as a person even though she was not her biological daughter-in-law. In the end, she insisted that Qin Yiru work herself to death to earn money. Many gossipy women in town knew about Lu Lanhua. Even these gossipy women hated Lu Lanhua. In fact, when Qin Yiru was bullied by Lu Lanhua in the past, these gossipy women would even stand up for her. Therefore, everyone who knew Lu Lanhua's character detested her and disliked this old woman. Therefore, when Yun Jian said those words to Lu Lanhua, the people around them were only slightly stunned. However, they reacted quickly. As for Yun Jian's disrespectful behavior, not only did the people around her not criticize her, a few of them even applauded her. Good hit. Young lady, good job. An old woman in her 40s pointed at Lu Lanhua, who was being stepped on by Yun Jian, and shouted fiercely. This old woman had gotten into an argument with Lu Lanhua before, and it had caused a huge commotion in Xinjiang town. In the end, Lu Lanhua had slapped this old woman harshly, so she hated Lu Lanhua to the core. Yun Jian did not care about the reactions of the people around her. She patted Lu Lanhua's cheek and said those words. Although Lu Lanhua was afraid, she felt that Yun Jian wouldn't dare to do anything to her, so her tone was vicious. Damned girl. Damn bitch. How dare you treat your own grandmother like this? Huh? You're a bastard. You heartless bastard. Would I have been able to give birth to you without you? Huh? Without me, there would be no you. You've grown up. Now that you've grown up, you're not even paying for your grandmother's pension. Oh heavens! How could there be such an unfilial descendant? Now that you've grown up, you've forgotten your grandmother. Today, he even wanted to murder his own grandmother. Where is the justice? Lu Lanhua struggled with all her might but was unable to stand up. She began to take advantage of her seniority and began to wail loudly. That scream was so loud that it sounded like Yun Jian had really done something to her. Pa! Just as Lu Lanhua was crying, Yun Jian slapped Lu Lanhua's face. Lu Lanhua was flung hard. Oh heavens! Oh heavens! Are you all dead? There's someone bullying the elderly here, and you're just watching without helping. I curse you all to go to hell. Lu Lanhua saw that no one came to help her, so she began to mumble to herself. Just as she shouted, Yun Jian took out a butterfly knife from her pocket. She nimbly swung the butterfly knife a few times and pointed it at Lu Lanhua. If you shout again, I'll kill you. Lu Lanhua suddenly saw the knife and was so frightened that she took a deep breath. But when she thought about how there were so many people around, would Yun Jian really dare to kill her? Humph, she definitely wouldn't. Thus, Lu Lanhua became even more impudent. Come on. Come if you have the guts. I don't *King believe that you dare to lay a hand on your grandmother. Before she finished speaking, Yun Jian had already grabbed the butterfly knife and stabbed it at Lu Lanhua. Chapter 1065. The old woman, Lu Lanhua, was extremely detestable. Everyone present wanted to get rid of her as soon as possible. What shocked everyone was not that Yun Jian, as a granddaughter, could do such a thing to a grandmother. Anyone would have hit Lu Lanhua if they were in her shoes. But Yun Jian had taken out a knife? Everyone present was thinking that Yun Jian had taken out the knife just to scare Lu Lanhua. Lu Lanhua was naturally afraid of death. She dared to provoke Yun Jian because she was confident that Yun Jian would not do it herself. Even if Yun Jian's talent was terrifying, even if she was the director of new crews, but she was just an ordinary girl. She was still underage. How could a normal girl hold a knife and attack a person without batting an eyelid? She was not an assassin or a secret agent. How could she be so calm when she saw blood? A normal person would be scared to death when they went to the hospital for an IV drip. Some would even faint when their blood was drawn. Even if Yun Jian was different from others, she was still an underage girl. Just as everyone thought of that, they felt a tug in their hearts. Everyone saw Yun Jian grab the butterfly knife and stab it down. She pressed it against Lu Lanhua's cheek and pressed it in. The knife pressed into Lu Lanhua's wrinkled cheek. The butterfly knife was very sharp. Yun Jian specifically chose sharp knives to attack. Therefore, when the knife pressed slightly into Lu Lanhua's cheek, Lu Lanhua's face was cut open. Blood slowly dripped from Lu Lanhua's cheek along the blade of the butterfly knife and splattered on the ground. Ah! Ah! *TCH, how dare you touch your own grandmother? Aren't you afraid of divine retribution? Ah! Although Lu Lanhua was a tomboy, she was still a cowardly old woman who bullied the weak and feared the strong. The knife in Yunjian's hand really stabbed into her cheek. She immediately rolled around and screamed. Yunjian was quick to act. She stabbed the butterfly knife into Lu Lanhua's face and soon, Lu Lanhua's skin was split open. At the same time, Yunjian's faint but frightening words came out of her mouth. This stab is a gift in return for what you did to my mother. Today, I'll give it to my mother as a dowry. Could this be used as a dowry? Everyone present was shocked by Yunjian's words and their mouths twitched. However, based on Lu Lanhua's attitude towards Qin Yiru back then, this stab was really enough to vent her anger. This stab could be considered as helping Qin Yiru vent her anger. Qin Yiru had come out of the house not long after Lu Lanhua had come over to cause trouble. However, when she saw Yunjian hitting Lu Lanhua, she did not stop her. She was no longer the weak Qin Yiru who did not allow Yunjian to fight back when Lu Lanhua attacked Yunjian. Moreover, Lu Lanhua dared to do this to Yunjian and was about to stab her with the bamboo pole just now. Forget about Yunjian hitting Lu Lanhua. Even if Yunjian did not, Qin Yiru would not let Lu Lanhua bully them again even if she had to risk her life. The crowd was shocked by Yunjian's words just now. Just as they came back to their senses, they saw Yunjian giving Lu Lanhua another hard slap with the side of her face, slamming Lu Lanhua who was jumping up and trying to break free to the floor again. After slapping Lu Lanhua to the floor, Yunjian waved the butterfly knife and slashed Lu Lanhua's face again. At the same time, Yunjian's words rang again. This stab is a gift in return for messing up my mother's wedding today. There was a pause before she continued. If you continue to cause trouble, I won't be stabbing your face, but Yunjian's voice trailed off abruptly. Chapter 1066. Oh my God. Oh my God. When everyone saw Yunjian plunging the knife into Lu Lanhua's head for real, their faces paled in fright. She really had the guts to do that? She was going to kill someone. Wasn't she afraid of killing someone? Although Yunjian was the director of new crews, she was too arrogant. Of course, the crowd did not dare utter those words out loud. After all, Yunjian was the director of new crews. Such an identity was enough to shock everyone present. Ah. Ah. You really dare. No, 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 no. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. No. Lu Lanhua's wrinkled face made everyone feel disgusted just by looking at it. This version of Yunjian made her feel fear and dread. However, just as the crowd reacted violently, the butterfly knife in Yunjian's hand was already plunging into the center of Lu Lanhua's forehead. Lu Lanhua was so frightened that her face turned pale. She shut her wrinkled face in an instant, unable to struggle free. After she closed her eyes, her entire body trembled. The villagers from afar saw the butterfly knife in Yunjian's hand as she plunged it vertically into Lu Lanhua's head. The knife was sure to slice Lu Lanhua's head in half. The moment her skin and flesh split open, Yunjian suddenly turned the knife around and slid the blade across Lu Lanhua's head. She only scraped off a layer of black flesh from Lu Lanhua's head. At that moment, other than Ce who was not far away, no one saw Yunjian staring at Lu Lanhua's eyes. Her X-ray vision on Lu Lanhua's eyes had a clear yet blurry luster. At the same time, in the eyes of the crowd, Lu Lanhua's head was merely scraped. What Lu Lanhua saw, however, was Yunjian stabbing the woman's head with the knife and breaking it in half. Hypnosis. Yunjian had used hypnosis on Lu Lanhua. Therefore, what Lu Lanhua saw was Yunjian stabbing her in the head and her being stabbed to death by Yunjian. However, what the bystanders saw was that Yunjian had used a knife to cut off a layer of skin at the edge of Lu Lanhua's forehead. Ah. I'm dead. Dead. Hi. At the last moment when she saw the illusion, Lu Lanhua's legs trembled and her eyelids rolled. It was as if she had really been killed. She was so scared that she fainted. However, before she fainted, Lu Lanhua's legs still trembled. With this shudder, Lu Lanhua had completely fainted a second ago. But at this moment, someone began to point at Lu Lanhua's lower body, under the variegated pants, and shouted, "You're the one who's going to die. Hey, look, that's, ha ha ha. That yellow liquid that flowed down is." She actually pissed herself. The old woman was so scared that she wet her pants. Ha ha ha. Serves you right. Her. Not only did Lu Lanhua not lend us a hoe when we asked her to, she even scolded us. This crazy woman should have done this earlier. This old woman pissed herself. I must put up a notice to let everyone in Xinjiang town know about this. Ha ha ha. Someone guffawed at once. Seeing that Lu Lanhua had fainted, Yun Jian raised her leg and took a step back. Sister Jian. It was then that the civet cat made its way over. She had been following Yun Jian since she was done with Qin Yiru and Dong Ruan's makeup in the morning. That girl is the one who did the makeup for the bride, right? She's amazing. She made the bride and bridesmaids look 20 years younger. The bystanders began to babble when they saw Civet. Civet was already standing in front of Yun Jian. Yun Jian pointed at Civet, who had fainted on the ground in front of everyone. Chapter 1067. Although the raccoon had a baby face and looked very young, she was actually very strong. Raccoon grabbed Lu Lanhua's collar and lifted the unconscious Lu Lanhua up. He then dragged her out of Zhang Meihua's house. The group of people who were still exclaiming about Yun Jian's ferociousness despite being so young and pretty just now widened their eyes. Not only was Yun Jian ferocious, even Yun Jian's subordinate, Tanuki, who looked like a weak makeup artist, was ferocious as well. It was a pity that the people around them did not know that Tanuki was not a makeup artist. The raccoon was an expert in the art of disguise. The art of disguise could completely change a person's appearance into another person. Even the other person's own parents wouldn't be able to recognize them. To be able to turn someone into someone else, her makeup skills must be impeccable. Making someone beautiful was only one of her skills. In the crowd's opinion, a girl who knew how to put on makeup was mostly gentle and weak. Why was Tanuki so ferocious? Tanuki was not only ferocious, she had once killed a bull with a single punch. She was the strongest female warrior in the Kosha mercenaries. Of course, the people around them did not know about this. Tanuki was already dragging the unconscious Lu Lanhua out of the house. The surroundings quieted down as if everything had returned to normal. Mom, let's go back. Yun Jian took out a napkin from her pocket and tested wiping the butterfly knife a few times. Once she was done wiping the blood off the knife, she closed it nimbly and put it back into her pocket. She then extended her hand to lift Qin Yiru's wedding gown slightly and walked into the house. Xiao Jian, don't bother with people like that next time. Qin Yiru pulled Yun Jian's hand over and patted the back of Yun Jian's smooth and soft hands with her calluses. Qin Yiru was completely different from the old her. If it was the old Qin Yiru, she would not be advising Yun Jian to ignore Lu Lanhua. Instead, she would be reprimanding Yun Jian for being violent towards an elder. Mom. Yun Jian nodded with a grin. If it were not for Lu Lanhua's blood stains on the floor, the people present would not be able to recognize this young girl who was beaming radiantly. Was this really the same girl who did not hold back when she was being ruthless just now? Yun Jian held Qin Yiru's hand gently as they entered the house. Ce stood quietly beside Yun Jian and followed them in. Xiao Jian, I'm not saying that you can't go easy on people like that. I'm just worried that you'll do it like this. It's just Lu Lanhua this time. What if something happens to you next time when you meet someone ruthless? Qin Yiru frowned, her worry for Yun Jian evident between her brows. She was not saying that Yun Jian could not go against people like Lu Lanhua. Instead, she was worried that Yun Jian had really offended some important figure. What should she do if she really offended someone important if she continued to be so high profile? Xiao Jian. I'm worried about you. I'm afraid that something will happen to you. As Qin Yiru spoke, Yun Jian had already helped her into the house to sit on a round stool on the first floor. Qin Yiru was looking at her worriedly. Mom, I know. Yun Jian had just said that. She had yet to finish her sentence when she was interrupted. Chapter 1068. Siyi's gaze was fixed on Yun Jian when he said that. He was very, very serious. Qin Yiru was initially looking at Yun Jian, but after what Siyi said, she turned to look at Siyi. Looking at Siyi's serious expression, Qin Yiru suddenly felt happy for Yun Jian. It turned out that Qin Yiru was still worried about what would happen in the future when her daughter suddenly became so dominant half a year ago. People in the countryside liked gentle and soft girls, while people in the city, especially those who came from well-to-do families, liked their wives to be the gentle and elegant type. Yun Jian, on the other hand, was domineering. Her techniques and moves were frightening. Under such circumstances, Qin Yiru was glad that Yun Jian would not allow herself to be bullied. However, what should she do when Yun Jian grew up and needed to get married? In today's society, boys liked delicate girls. Moreover, a woman would have to face her in-laws in the future. Which mother-in-law would like a daughter-in-law who was so domineering in front of her? For this reason, Qin Yiru could not help worrying about her daughter's future and whether her daughter could really find a husband in the future. She was worried about whether the man would treat her well when Xiao Jian got married in the future. Now that Qin Yiru knew about it, however, she did not have to worry about it anymore. Everything else aside, Ce valued Yun Jian's life more than his own. Qin Yiru wished she could make Ce marry Xiao Jian right away. If it were not for the fact that she was still young, she would force Yun Jian to marry Ce as soon as possible. She would tie up a good guy like Ce first. If Yun Jian heard what Qin Yiru was thinking now, she would probably wonder if the owner of this body was Qin Yiru's biological daughter. At noon, the groom came to pack the bride's dowry and left. Qin Yiru stayed at home and waited for about 3 hours. It was a superstition passed down by the older generation. Before the wedding, Gu Junjian invited a Taoist priest to calculate the best time for the bride to get married. The time was set at 3:30 in the afternoon, not a minute less, not a minute more. Today was Monday and school was still in session. Knowing that Qin Yiru was getting married, Lu Fian asked her mother to send some money to Qin Yiru even though she couldn't skip school. Lu Yun's mother also came over to help today. Although Lu Fian couldn't come over herself, she had already done her best. Lu Jingji's mother was grateful to Yun Jian for saving Lu Jingji's father, so when she knew that Qin Yiru was getting married, she woke up early in the morning to help. The group was bustling with activity. At this time, it was 3:30 in the afternoon. It was time to send the bride to the groom's house. Qin Yiru got into Yun Jian's Ferrari sports car and the civet cat drove them to Longmen City. As Yun Jian was still underage and did not have a driving license, the civet cat drove Qin Yiru all the way. The firecrackers by the roadside went off incessantly. A fiery red Ferrari sports car drove at the front while 19 luxury cars and sports cars followed closely behind. Each of the 20 wedding cars cost a fortune. Usually, wedding cars would be in pairs during weddings. 20 could also be understood as I love you. At this moment, the wedding cars followed closely behind the Ferrari sports car. Following closely behind the civet cat were the wedding cars driven by the 4 leaders of an Han group. From Xinjiang town to Gu Yunjian's house in Longmen City, a red carpet was laid out from the beginning to the end, symbolizing a red wedding that would last forever. 20 cars, with the fiery red Ferrari sports car in the lead, cruised slowly on the red carpet. The firecrackers went on incessantly. This was no doubt the largest wedding in Xinjiang town, Longmen City, Xia province, and even the entire country. At 3:30 in the afternoon on May 21, 1999, Qin Yiru walked out of Xinjiang town in the most glamorous manner. All the residents of Xinjiang town came to watch her get married. Chapter 1069. Starting from 3:30 p.m., the bustling scene continued until 4:30 p.m. Qin Yiru was sent to Gu Yunjian's house under the protection and bustle of the people around. Sending her from Zhang Meihua's house in Xinjiang town to Gu Yunjian's house was just a formality. After the bride was sent off, she would usually spend the night at the groom's house before going to the hotel at night. Of course, the bride would usually change out of her heavy white wedding gown before going to the hotel. Once Qin Yiru arrived at Gu Yunjian's house and the formality was over, she changed out of her heavy white wedding gown in Gu Yunjian's house and put on a bright red cheongsam that she wore during the wedding banquet. The bright red cheongsam had an ancient charm to it. Qin Yiru's figure was already very slender and cheongsams were usually worn by women who had a rather outstanding figure. The cheongsam, which was neither too big nor too small, fit Qin Yiru just right. Yun Jian did not accompany Qin Yiru to Gu Yunjian's house but went straight to Tranquil Rhythm Hotel instead. Qin Yiru's visit to Gu Yunjian's house was just a formality. After the formality, the main wedding ceremony would be held at Tranquil Rhythm Hotel. The guests would usually arrive at Tranquil Rhythm Hotel and have a meal first before the bride and groom arrived later. It was only after the wedding ceremony that the guests would drink with them. Yun Jian sent the civet cat to follow Qin Yiru. After all, Qin Yiru was wearing makeup now and it could fall off at any time. With the civet cat following her, she could fix it if necessary. Yun Jian and Ce returned to Longmen City in Adam's sports car while Ce drove. Just as they returned to Longmen City, Ce parked the car in front of Tranquil Rhythm Hotel. Yun Jian opened the car door smoothly and saw 3 figures just as she got out. Qin Yu was walking over with Gu Nianji while Yun Yi was beside her. Behave yourself. Qin Yu pinned Gu Nianji down and muttered in a muffled voice, even patting Gu Nianji's restless body. Fine, fine. Gu Nianji pouted and squirmed a little before falling silent. Gu Nianji had been locked up by Qin Yu ever since she failed to assassinate Yun Jian. Rather than being locked up by Qin Yu, it was more accurate to say that he had been staying at Qin Yu's house to keep her company. Today was Qin Yiru's wedding, so Gu Nianji was brought along by Qin Yu to attend the wedding. Sister Jian. Qin Yu called out softly as she stood in front of Yun Jian after suppressing the thrashing Gu Nianji. Yes. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and glanced at Yun Yi. Brother. Yun Yi also responded. Then, the few of them walked towards the Clear Rhythm Hotel. Just as they reached the entrance of the hotel, Yun Yi dragged Ce away with a grin. The reason was that there were still some decorations to be done at the wedding venue. Any later and the guests would have arrived. Yun Yi was too busy, so she dragged Ce away. Yun Jian did not know what Yun Yi had whispered to Ce. Since they were far away and she did not have good hearing, she only saw Yun Yi whispering something into Ce's ear before Ce looked at her with a smirk for a few seconds before he left with Yun Yi willingly. Yun Yi dragged Ce to help. Just as Yun Jian was about to step into the hotel, a familiar female voice came from behind. Sister Yunju. Yun Jian did not need to turn around to know who it was. But she still turned sideways. Chapter 1070. Miss Lu was holding her husband with one hand and her son with the other. She stared at Yun Jian expectantly. It was Yun Jian's mother's wedding today and her first time having dinner at a 4-star hotel, so Miss Lu put on makeup and wore her prettiest outfit before she left. Her heart was brimming with joy when she thought about how she would be having dinner at a 4-star hotel like Qin Yun Hotel like a rich lady. Peeking in Yun Jian's direction, she saw Qin Yu standing beside Yun Jian and Gu Nianji who was held by the latter. Miss Lu had never seen Qin Yu and Gu Nianji before, so she had no idea how they were related to Yun Jian. Therefore, to show her goodwill or to make her presence known to Yun Jian, Miss Lu flashed a rather fake smile and looked at Yun Jian, asking in a pretentious tone, "What's the matter? Sister Yunju, where's Yunju? Why isn't he here?" After a moment of silence, Miss Lu continued to speak to please Yun Jian. Yunju is such a sports kid. Where did he run off to play again? Miss Lu knew that Yun Jian doted on her younger brother, so she said that to match the topic with Yun Jian. It had to be said that Teacher Lu was a very smart person. Of course, Yun Jian did not know that before Miss Lu praised Yun Jian for being a sports kid, Miss Lu did not know that Yun Jian was an advanced special forces soldier. There was once when Xiao Yunju moved a little too much in class and was scolded by Miss Lu for having ADHD. He was even punished to stand outside the classroom. Xiao Zhu isn't here yet. I have something to do. Help yourself, Yun Jian turned to look at Miss Lu and said coldly after a pause. Then, she walked into the hotel with Qin Yu, who was holding Gu Nianji down. Hey, Yunju Jijia. Miss Lu wanted to say something, but Yun Jian had already entered Tranquil Rhythm Hotel. It was obvious that Yun Jian had no intention of paying attention to her. Teacher Lu stood where she was, and a few passers-by looked at her strangely. This made Teacher Lu very unhappy with Yun Jian. Even after watching Yun Jian walk into Qingyun Hotel, Teacher Lu still stood on the spot and discontentedly ridiculed, "Tisk, isn't he just an advanced special forces soldier? Wasn't it just because he was slightly valued by the military and had some fame now? Do you think you know some big shot? If you have the guts, go and get acquainted with some big shot." Youngsters nowadays are getting more and more arrogant. It was because Yun Jian had already walked into Tranquil Rhythm Hotel and disappeared from their sight that Miss Lu spoke in a menacing tone. "Honey, don't be angry. Why are you fighting over that kind of person? Your health is more important." Teacher Lu's husband comforted Teacher Lu softly. Teacher Lu's husband was the typical kind of weak and incompetent person. He hadn't found a proper job and relied on the school's meager salary to get by. Teacher Lu was living off a woman at home. When Teacher Lu heard this, she felt very comfortable. That's right. Yunju's sister, Yun Jian, was only an advanced special forces soldier. What was so great about her? She didn't know any big shots. What was there to be proud of in front of her? As she thought about it, Teacher Lu swayed her hips proudly as she held on to her husband and pulled her son into Qingyun Hotel. At 4:30 p.m., most of the guests had just rushed over from their accommodations. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.